What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 11 Su Chapter 188 Terumi Mei's Shock. Winning. The ninjas of Cloud Shinobi Village would not sit still and wait for death. They said, "Everyone, come on, cut off these bone spears." The ninjas of Cloud Shinobi Village drew their weapons and chopped at the bone spears. However, the bone spears were much harder than expected. Even if they were cut off with great effort, new bone spears would quickly pierce out. Kawasaki shuttled freely among the bone spears. Under the effect of the dance of the early ferns, Kawasaki almost possessed the ability of dead bone pulse. After years of physical training, Kawasaki has become very strong. What's more, he has mastered super fast reactions. These Cloud Shinobi Village ninjas couldn't even touch him and died in a daze. Kawasaki shuttled back and forth in the bone forest all the time. Even Wooden Golem and Killer Bee couldn't catch up with him. Killer Bee cursed, "Damn Mist Shinobi. I'm going to kill you, you idiot." The Raikage kept dismantling the bone spears, but the bone forest seemed endless. He hurriedly shouted, "Don't fight, break through in one direction, everyone leave the bone forest." At this moment, Kawasaki's remaining shadow clone took a step forward. The same curse seal appeared on his body, Curse Seal X2 right pointing arrow Curse Seal X1. The huge chakra rushed straight into the sky. The Raikage turned back suddenly. Why is the chakra of the remaining 28 people so powerful? The Kirigakure people stared in disbelief. They have seen the horror of this technique. Now another person is performing the same technique. Hoshigaki Kisame also had many questions in his heart. He knew that these two people were the boss's shadow clone, but how could the boss's shadow clone have dead bone pulse? The last time the boss's shadow clone used the secret technique of the Hozumi clan, this time it was the dead bone pulse of the Yoruichi clan. Could the last one be the Snow clan? Kisame guessed right. Kawasaki was going to show Cloud Shinobi Village and Kirigakure that there was such a master hidden in Kirigakure. The air suddenly became extremely cold. Cold wind blew, and ice began to form under the feet of Kawasaki's shadow clone. Countless mirror ice crystals appeared, gradually surrounding the bone forest. Kawasaki's shadow clone jumped into one of the mirrors. Instantly appeared from the mirror on the Cloud Shinobi Village side. Holding a sharp sword, it madly harvested the lives of Cloud Shinobi Village ninjas. The Wooden Golem and Killer Bee of Cloud Shinobi Village angrily smashed the ice crystals in front of them. But new ice crystals appeared in an endless stream. Two shadow clones kept appearing between the bone spear and the mirror. The Raikage attacked the bone spear frantically, but the bone spear could always regenerate and rise from the ground again. Raikage was anxious. Although he could break through alone, others could not keep up. If he continued like this, he would be trapped here and die. Wooden Golem was also anxious. "We can't go on like this, we will suffer heavy casualties." Her brown hair exploded, and her chakra increased. Advertisement seeing this, she shouted, "Wooden Golem, don't force it. Your injury is not healed yet, you can't force the tailed beast." At this time, Wooden Golem could not care about many things. Under the strong chakra increase, she had to suppress the violent will of the two-tailed beast with a stronger will. Da. With a violent roar, a giant cat demon with flames all over the body appeared on the field. The chakra on the cat demon was extremely unstable, and Wooden Golem could only barely control it. The completely tailed beasted Wooden Golem was extremely ferocious. When she swept the bone spear in front of her, she also threw several Cloud Shinobi Village ninjas away. After clearing an area, she lay down and opened her mouth. A huge chakra ball condensed in her mouth, and the dark blue chakra continued to gather. Tailed Beast Bomb. Raikage's face changed drastically, not because of anything else, but because Wooden Golem's body could not withstand the release of Tailed Beast Bomb. "Everyone get out of the way," Raikage roared angrily. There are two ways to release Tailed Beast Bomb. One is a spherical throwing explosion. The other is like 8 Tails Gyuki, which is fired like a laser cannon. Boom! Wooden Golem aimed at the bone forest and fired Tailed Beast Bomb fiercely. Whether it was bone spears or ice crystals along the way, they all melted instantly. One side of the bone forest was completely cleared. "Good. You Wooden Golem is so awesome." The Cloud Shinobi Village ninjas cheered. You Wooden Golem, who had just released Tailed Beast Bomb, now turned back into human form. DB. Blood continued to pour out of You Wooden Golem's mouth, and she fell down instantly, dying. The cheers stopped abruptly, and the Cloud Shinobi Village ninjas seemed to be strangled by someone. She immediately stepped forward to rescue You Wooden Golem. Raikage also rushed over and said, "How is You Wooden Golem?" Zai's hand was still healing, and his face could not hide his anxiety. "Raikage-sama, You Wooden Golem's old injuries have not healed, and just now he turned into a tailed beast and launched a tailed beast bomb. Now the situation is terrible, and further treatment measures must be taken immediately." Before he finished speaking, a Cloud Shinobi exclaimed, "Oh my god, the bone spears are regenerating again. Even the ice crystals are recovering. How many chakras are hidden in their bodies?" Sure enough, the bone spears kept coming out from the ground swept by the tailed beast bomb. In the air, The ice crystals were still slowly condensing, and although the speed was slightly reduced, they were still spreading towards this side. Ying was furious, but he knew that this was not the time to act impulsively. Everyone, retreat. Advertisement. All the Cloud Shinobi ninjas were also tortured by the bone spear forest and ice crystals. They hurriedly retreated quickly along the road opened by the wooden golem-tailed beast bomb. The Cloud Shinobi were numerous and could support each other, helping their injured companions to evacuate. In this short period of time, Kawasaki's 2 shadow clones had knocked down more than 80 people. Kawasaki specifically picked the weak and did not touch the strong. As fierce as Cloud Shinobi came, he was as embarrassed as he retreated. Even if Reikage could fight 1 against 1,000, these subordinates were his weak spot. Kawasaki's shadow clone hid in the bone spears and ice crystals from beginning to end. Reikage, the bulldozer, only picked the weak ones, and couldn't push down too many bone spears. The bone spears even spread along the retreat route of Cloud Shinobi for a while, and the group gradually stopped. After a long time, 2 figures walked out of the bone forest and ice crystals. The bone forest and ice crystals behind them were slowly collapsing. Terumi Mei's beautiful eyes were full of disbelief. The 2 of them faced nearly 1,000 Cloud Shinobi. MJ. Terumi Mei muttered to herself. The spies of other forces in the distance were also shocked. Only 2 people blocked nearly 1,000 Cloud Shinobi. Roughly estimated, Cloud Shinobi has lost nearly 100 people. If it weren't for Wooden Golem's prompt decision to release Tailed Beast Bomb after transforming into a tailed beast, Cloud Shinobi would have suffered even more casualties. Mist Shinobi actually has such a deep background. Such a powerful Kagaya clan, such a powerful Snow clan. Many people began to re-evaluate Mist Shinobi's strength. Except for Jinchuriki, all other well-known bloodline limits of Mist Shinobi have appeared. Those spies don't know yet that when attacking Eight Tails, Feipu did not pretend to be a master of the village bomb clan. But Mist Shinobi has intelligence. Since Terumi Mei ascended the throne, she has been supporting it alone. Now she sees that Mist Shinobi has such a senior sitting in. She can't help but feel relieved. Oh, win, Mist Shinobi couldn't help but cheer. Terumi Mei raised her hand, and the noise behind her gradually subsided. She stepped forward and saluted the 2 Mist Shinobi seniors. Thank you for your help. May I ask your names? At this time, the talisman marks on Kawasaki's 2 shadow clone bodies have dissipated, but the 2 look normal. There is no sign of fatigue, which makes Terumi Mei feel that the 2 are more unfathomable. The shadow clone dressed as the Wei Yoruichi clan said in a distant tone, Kwang Ji Yu. The shadow clone using the magic mirror ice crystal said in a slightly gentler tone, My name is Bing Li. Chapter 189 Kawasaki's Power. So sharp? Terumi Mei said respectfully. I wonder if you 2 are interested in becoming Mist Shinobi elders? We urgently need masters like you 2 to protect Mist Shinobi. Kwang Ji Yu had no intention of responding, and seemed unwilling to negotiate too much with Terumi Mei. Terumi Mei had to turn her attention to Bing Li. Bing Li smiled indifferently and said, We have retired for many years. If Cloud Shinobi had not come to our door, we would not have shown up. At this time, Kwang Mao snorted coldly and said, It has always been Mist Shinobi who attacked others, but now Cloud Shinobi has counterattacked. It is simply a great shame. If you continue to consume yourselves like this, Mist Shinobi will be destroyed in your hands sooner or later. Some people from the faction behind Terumi Mei looked ashamed. If Terumi Mei had not asked Akatsuki for help during the invasion of Cloud Shinobi this time, the first 2 Jinchuriki would have found it difficult to resist. Not to mention the subsequent Reikage, Bing Li said at this time. The current Mizukage has done a good job. We have all seen your reform of Mist Shinobi. You have done a great job. Go ahead and do it. We all support you. Thank you, senior. Terumi Mei's words trembled. The sudden appearance of the cloud caught her off guard. Terumi Mei was overjoyed. She did not expect such a good thing to happen. Her faction originally lacked the support of masters. I did not expect someone to hand over a pillow when I was sleepy. This is a master who took the initiative to come to the door. The faces of other factions behind Terumi Mei were as ugly as the bottom of a pot. Terumi Mei suddenly received the support of several seniors. If they wanted to fight for power and profit again, they would probably only destroy themselves. But they did not dare to have any objection. The scene of Kwang Ji Yu and Bing Li beating nearly 1,000 Cloud Shinobi was still in front of them. The hard fist is the hard truth. Besides, they had an agreement with Terumi Mei in advance for the invasion of Cloud Shinobi this time, and now they should restrain their own little calculations. Kisame was grinning and trying his best to control his facial expression. He thought to himself, 2 is really good at playing. He said it as if it were true. But as a qualified ninja, Kisame would never leak Kawasaki's information. Fortunately, no one noticed Kisame. Even if someone noticed the smile in Kisame's eyes, they would think it was the joy of defeating Cloud Shinobi. Bing Li's eyes swept over Terumi Mei and the people behind him. Advertisement Biwajuzo, Zabuza, Shing and others are all staunch supporters of Terumi Mei. Most of them seemed excited. The expressions of another group of people were much more complicated. These should be Terumi Mei's political opponents. Bing Li glanced coldly. Those people shrank their heads like frightened quails, revealing a charming smile. Bingley saw Kisame trying to control his expression again. No, he had to arrange for Kisame to leave quickly and said, Mizukage, come with me, Kisame, come here too. After saying that, he whispered something to Kwangu, then turned around and walked towards a place where few people went. It was obvious that he had something to say to Terumi Mei in private. Terumi Mei glanced at Ching, Zabuza and Juzo behind her, and they nodded. Terumi Mei followed alone. Kwangu tilted his head and said, Let's go, Kisame. Kisame stood up and responded with a lowered eyebrow, Yes, senior. Kwangu led Kisame to another direction. After walking for a distance, Bingley thought the time was right. Turning back to Terumi Mei, she said, When we cooperated with Akatsuki, we gave up those islands. Terumi Mei's heart tightened. She had regarded Bingley as an old Miss Shinobi senior and thought she would be blamed. Unexpectedly, Bingley did not criticize her. Instead, she said, It's okay to give up those islands. You don't have to feel burdened. We have many islands in the land of water, and many of them have not been fully developed. Terumi Mei nodded. She thought so when she agreed to the conditions. Although there are several ports on those islands, there are frequent caravans. But there are still some islands like this in the land of water, but the geographical location is not ideal. However, Bingley's next sentence made Terumi Mei's heart tighten again. The Uchiha clan is preparing for independence, and the location is set on our islands. Terumi Mei was nervous and her face changed. Then wouldn't it be dangerous for us to hide? Although Uchiha is an ally this time, what if it is no longer an ally next time? Being so close, he can attack Miss Shinobi at any time. Bingley waved his hand and began to brag. Don't be nervous, the current leader of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Kawasaki, is not a very ambitious person. You see, he has emerged from the tribe and sat on the throne of the clan leader. He rarely wields swords and guns. Terumi Mei thought about it and it was true. As the head of the Uchiha clan, all major forces must study Kawasaki's information thoroughly. Although Kawasaki is strong, he rarely conquers others by force, but uses other methods. Seeing that Terumi Mei listened, Bingley continued to brag. Now that Kawasaki leads the Uchiha clan, our Miss Shinobi is temporarily safe, and Feipu and Uchiha have a good relationship. Besides, Kwang Ji-yu and I are still here. As long as we are alive, we don't have to worry about Uchiha having other plans. And Uchiha Kawasaki already has a lot of profitable business plans. The current Uchiha clan is trustworthy. We can cooperate with them in depth and quickly improve the strength of Miss Shinobi. The only way to be strong is to be strong. Terumi Mei nodded in agreement. Advertisement. If I were strong enough to deal with Reikage, I wouldn't end up in such a mess. I understand, Bingley Sr. Bingley thought for a moment and said. Our relationship with Uchiha will not be made public for the time being. If Uchiha can continue to be an undercover agent in Cloud Shinobi in the future, Miss Shinobi can also have an extra layer of security. When Uchiha comes to take over the island, you can figure out how to operate it. After the matter is done, we old bones will not get involved. This time, Uchiha's undercover agent in Cloud Shinobi sent a lot of information to Miss Shinobi. And Cloud Shinobi has not discovered this yet. This secret may come in handy in the future. Hearing that Bingley intended to leave, Terumi Mei hurriedly asked, How can we contact the senior in the future? Bingley chuckled and said, Miss Shinobi is developing well, is it the same as us? After saying that, without waiting for Terumi Mei to speak, Bingley turned around, waved his hand, and left the scene. Bingley walked a distance alone, walked into a forest, and leaned against a tree. After waiting for a while, he said, Come out, tap, tap, tap. With the sound of footsteps, Obito appeared, so sharp. Obito exclaimed, I didn't expect Miss Shinobi to have a character like you. Obito asked in an inquiring tone, Your ice escape is so powerful, you shouldn't be unknown. Bingley did not answer Obito, but first carefully examined Dai Wang's Sharingan. He was not sure whether the last battle had exhausted Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan. But at this moment, Obito's Sharingan was still in the 3 Megatama state, so it was not visible. If Obito really lost a Mangekyo, he would not be so calm. I didn't expect that he had transplanted other Sharingans. Bingley's eyes looked into the distance again. Obito's eyes tightened, that was where he asked Kakuzu to ambush. So sharp? Come out, it's so suffocating hiding in the soil. As the Eternal Eye, Kawasaki has a strong insight. Chapter 190. Fighting power is off the charts, advance and retreat together. He glanced over there and knew that someone was hiding underground. Kakuzu heard the sound and stopped hiding and emerged from underground. Very sharp, Obito, this guy is not easy to deal with. Kakuzu said coldly. Kakuzu didn't even wear the black fire cloud uniform of the Akatsuki organization at this time, but Bingley called him by his name. Aren't you Kakuzu from the Akatsuki organization? Why are you with Obito? It has nothing to do with you. Kakuzu's face darkened. How deep was Miss Shinobi's relationship with the Akatsuki organization? Even his information was revealed. Kakuzu glanced at Obito and his face was not very good. Bingley wondered why Kakuzu was involved with Obito and tried to ask a question. As a result, judging from Kakuzu's reaction, the two of them seemed to be not in harmony. We are allies with the Akatsuki organization. Do you want to betray the organization now? Bingley looked down at Kakuzu. Kakuzu's face darkened and his eyes swept over Obito. Bingley had some guesses in his mind. Never mind, the Akatsuki organization is almost dead in name only. Find a chance to deal with Kakuzu next time. Bingley looked at Obito and Kakuzu blocking the path, and seemed to have won. Are you Obito? Bingley's tone was cold. Obito said confidently. Yes, it's me. Bingley said coldly. I heard from Uchiha that you 530 have been expelled from the family, and now you are a dog without a home? Obito's eyes were stern, and his eyes instantly turned into Mangekyo and said, a hole. A vortex formed on Bingley's arm. Bingley finally saw Kakuzu's ridicule of Obito in his eyes, and then he turned into smoke. Obito was stunned, his face was ashen and said, Shadow clone, when did it happen? Obito just saw the chakras of Bingley and Kwangu surging, and he saw it clearly. That was definitely not Shadow clone. In other words, the Shadow clone he used after that. How did this guy do it? He was in sight the whole time, but he had turned into a Shadow clone. Obito felt cold in his heart. The old man from Sonogakure should not be underestimated. He was sure that he could keep Hiyori, so he let Kakuzu show up. But it turned out to be just a Shadow clone. The problem is big. He openly poached Kakuzu from Akatsuki and caused trouble for Akatsuki's allies. Advertisement: the news has been sent back through the Shadow clone of Hiyori. Nagato might turn against him directly. Obito wanted to poach a few more members of Akatsuki, but now it seems impossible. Nagato's behavior pattern was unstable to begin with, and now it is completely out of control. On the other side, Kwangit has taken Kisame to a secluded place. Boss, I know such a big secret, you have to give me a raise. Kisame said half-jokingly. Kwangit has already lifted his transformation and returned to the appearance of Kawasaki. Kawasaki patted Kisame on the shoulder and said, okay, I'll give you a raise. When you and Kyoko get married, I'll add all of it to the wedding gift. Kisame was a little embarrassed when he heard this, and said, boss, we. Kawasaki glared and said, what do you mean you? Itachi got engaged at the age of 16. How old are you? Kyoko is not young either. Kisame is 28, and Kyoko is only a few years younger than him. In this world, it is considered an old unmarried person. Kisame and Kyoko escaped from the Blood Mist village and lived the life they liked. It seems to release all the suppressed emotions for so many years. The two of them usually do missions, eat and drink, and live a very leisurely life. However, Kisame has not been idle in recent years, and he doesn't even have to run around to do missions. His strength is better than the original timeline. Kisame said embarrassedly, then I'll go back and ask Kyoko. Seeing Kisame like this, Sake decided to tell him something. I've been with you for so long, and I should tell you some secrets. Hearing Kawasaki's serious words, Kisami's expression became solemn. He released 4 water clones and spread them in all directions to check if there was any danger. Kawasaki also appreciated Kisami's caution and said, what I want to tell you is why Obito wants to control. Then, Kawasaki told Kisame that Obito was brainwashed by Uchiha Madara, and that Madara would be resurrected in the future and activate infinite Tsukuyomi. So, I worked hard to strengthen my strength so that I could compete with them in the future. Kisame frowned. Sif. Never thought that Uchiha Madara would really appear, and he was going to activate infinite Tsukuyomi. Now for Kisame, the world with Kyoko is real, and infinite Tsukuyomi is at most like a dream. Of course, Madara is just a pawn, there is a force behind him, and Madara is just being used. The purpose of that force is not just to make everyone in the ninja world dream. They want to destroy the world. Advertisement. Madara is also being used, and they want to destroy the world? The amount of information exploded for a while, and Kisame felt that his brain was a little confused. Kawasaki saw that Kisame didn't look very smart, so he didn't waste his breath to explain in detail how heavy the Otsutsu was. But looking at the current situation, even if he explained it, he might not be able to digest it. We still have tough battles to fight in the future, you have to think it through. Kawasaki patted Kisame on the shoulder. Although Kisame is a person with explosive fighting power, Kawasaki intends to respect his wishes. After all, he is also a man who is about to start a family. Kisame grinned and said, what are you thinking? The boss has raised me for so long, I naturally have to stand with the boss. Besides, there are so many masters to fight with, I can't wait to be happy. 1. Kawasaki laughed and said, okay, I understand. Cloud Shinobi will probably withdraw its troops soon. In 2 days, you tell Terumi Mei that Rock Shinobi is gathering its troops, and Cloud Shinobi will definitely withdraw immediately. Once this matter is settled, you can return to the Yin village. Discuss with Kyoko first whether to move to Konoha. If you like the climate of the Land of Water, we Uchiha will take over these 4 islands in the future. You can settle here. Kisame was very pleased with this boss who always cared about her, and nodded with a smile on his face. I understand. After Kawasaki finished his explanation, Shadow Clone disappeared instantly. Kawasaki, who was far away in Konoha, suddenly felt dizzy and then returned to normal. It seems that Cloud Shinobi is about to retreat. After losing so many people and supplies, what else can they do if they don't leave? As for Cloud Shinobi's pursuit later, it was all within Kawasaki's expectations. Even if Cloud Shinobi didn't chase, Kawasaki would send 2 shadow clones to Cloud Shinobi to teach them a lesson. It would also make Mist Shinobi more confident, so that all forces would not want to go to Mist Shinobi to get some benefits. Just in case, he also wrote a letter to Onoki to inform Cloud Shinobi in advance that 4,000 people had been killed and injured. Let Rock Shinobi put on a posture of large-scale troop deployment. Cloud Shinobi had to retreat this time. Kisame was just what Kawasaki wanted to the extreme, loyal and brave. He was an excellent assistant, and there were many places where he could be used in the future. Obito was wandering around the land of water, and Kawasaki was mentally prepared. But how Obito could win over Kakuzu to his side, Kawasaki didn't know. Besides, looking at Kakuzu's appearance, it didn't seem like he was really willing to join Obi. Nagato was still fine, but Obito started to steal Akatsuki's girls. Obviously he was not pretending anymore, and he was going to show his cards. Nagato might be in danger now. Chapter 191 Akatsuki, we won. Kawasaki thought about how to help Nagato. The leader of Akatsuki raided Cloud Shinobi. The news that he had caused a huge tsunami by himself, causing thousands of casualties in Cloud Shinobi, spread to the desks of all the powerful people almost the next day. Onoki even received a secret letter from Kawasaki the day before. All forces raised the threat level of Akatsuki to the highest level, and Onoki also gathered a large number of troops with great momentum. Of course, such a blatant move as Onoki to gather Rock Shinobi quickly spread. All the ninja villages knew that Rock Shinobi wanted to attack Cloud Shinobi while Cloud Shinobi was seriously injured. The Cloud Shinobi army, which was cleaning up the mess, treating the wounded, and repairing ships on the battlefield of the water country, also received this intelligence. The top leaders of Cloud Shinobi all gathered on a ship with less damage for a meeting. Reikage I, Killer B, Samui, Mabui, Shi. Everyone was there, only Wooden Golem was seriously injured due to forced transformation and could not attend. Cloud Shinobi had never suffered such a big loss before, and it was obviously a great opportunity. Something went wrong with Mist Shinobi's Jinchuriki, and the major bloodline families were destroyed. The strength has fallen to a historical low, and it is the best time for Cloud Shinobi to attack. If Mist Shinobi can be destroyed and the water country can be occupied, Cloud Shinobi will dominate the ninja world in no time. So Cloud Shinobi took the risk of sending 2 Jinchuriki to land first and occupy the territory. At first, the battle situation was very good and everything went smoothly. However, later, Wooden Golem and Killer B were obstructed by the Akatsuki organization. If it were not for Uchiha's timely rescue, Wooden Golem and Killer B would have died long ago. Cloud Shinobi can still accept this point. After all, it has been found that Mist Shinobi Jinchuriki does have problems, and its overall strength has seriously declined. However, when the Cloud Shinobi army arrived and was still landing on the shore, the Akatsuki organization showed its trump card. A natural disaster-level secret method attacked, directly destroying 80% of Cloud Shinobi's ships, killing and injuring thousands of people. At this time, Mist Shinobi took the opportunity to fight back. According to statistics, more than 3,000 Cloud Shinobi have been killed, and less than 1,000 people are left. The final pursuit actually led to the hidden masters of Mist Shinobi, one from the Wei Yoruichi clan, and the other from the Snow clan, who beat Cloud Shinobi without any resistance. If it weren't for the Wooden Golem forcibly launching the tailed beast bomb to kill a way out for Cloud Shinobi's losses would be even more severe. Even so, nearly 100 people were lost. No matter how strong the movie is, Shi can only retreat with his people. In the end, only 800 Cloud Shinobi were left alive. Reikage slammed the table in anger and said unwillingly, "This battle against Mist Shinobi has failed. Let's discuss the next action." Ma Bui said while holding the document, "We got the news that Ruoyan is gathering troops on a large scale. If we continue to stay in the land of water, the land of thunder will be in great danger." Advertisement Killer B was injured after forcibly using tailed beast bomb last time and experiencing a tsunami, he said. The Akatsuki organization is simply too strong, only a few people came. Let us suffer such a heavy blow. If all members are dispatched, we will be in greater danger. You guys, stupid guys. Samui said calmly, "Such a powerful technique is definitely not something that can be used casually. Reikage is here, and other members of the Akatsuki organization are not a threat to us. But the Akatsuki organization may be afraid of Reikage, so they dare not show up." Samui is right. Reikage's personal assault ability is extremely strong. If the Akatsuki members attack like before, no one can escape. She said helplessly, "It doesn't make much sense for us to stay here. Mist Shinobi has even evacuated the island." Although the Reikage was angry, he could do nothing. After Mist Shinobi retreated, it was equivalent to handing over the island. However, Cloud Shinobi would not be able to hold out for long without supplies. Reikage sighed dejectedly. "Well, let's withdraw." In fact, Cloud Shinobi only had this one way left. Reikage's order was quickly issued. The Cloud Shinobi army knew what was going on, and no one objected, so they packed up. They took the several ships that had been repaired in the past 2 days. They slowly left Surin Island. 5,000 high-spirited warriors set out from the Land of Lightning and headed for Kirigakure with great momentum, but they achieved nothing, and more than half of them were either dead or injured. Now there are only 700 or 800 people left on the way back, and they are all in a mess. After the intelligence personnel on the island discovered this scene, they immediately spread the news. Mist Shinobi received the news and was not excited. Withdraw. Cloud Shinobi retreated. Victory, we won. Many Kirigakure people cried with joy. This time Cloud Shinobi came with great force, and they were ready to sacrifice for Gonzi. However, compared with previous battles, the casualties in this battle were much smaller, and even Mist Shinobi did not experience much hard battle. Terumi Mei originally thought that the front line would be extremely difficult. They were even prepared to abandon the outer islands and conduct guerrilla warfare on the main island. 10. Unexpectedly, the Akatsuki organization that Uchiha moved to was so powerful that it directly blocked the Cloud Shinobi warehouse on the outer island. The leader of the Akatsuki organization was a Rinnegan holder, and he wiped out thousands of Cloud Shinobi in one fell swoop. Advertisement: this was a heavy blow to Cloud Shinobi, and the mid and lower level ninjas suffered heavy losses and were seriously injured. For several years, Cloud Shinobi was no longer able to harass others. Because Terumi Mei successfully found reinforcements, he successfully won this difficult war. After Cloud Shinobi retreated, Terumi Mei's prestige in the Land of Water quickly increased. Because Bingley specially stood up for Terumi Mei before leaving. This made the Mist Shinobi people feel that Terumi Mei also had a backer behind her. Other factions no longer dared to have second thoughts and could only accept Terumi Mei's leadership obediently. With the assistance of Zabuza, Biwajuzo, Ao and others, Mist Shinobi entered a new period of reconstruction and development. Zero on the other side, Kawasaki learned the news of Cloud Shinobi's retreat. After waiting for a long time, he still did not receive the prompt of mission completion. Damn, it seems that the mission can only be successfully completed after Mist Shinobi grows stronger. Previously, Mist Shinobi also commissioned the Akatsuki organization to search for Six Tails Jinchuriki Yugo. But now the Akatsuki organization no longer exists. How to find it for him? During this period, Kawasaki's practice in dreams has not been interrupted. In addition to practicing Susanoo in dreams every day, it is to practice the reincarnation of self-birth, and the exploration of immortal arts has come to an end. At present, he has obtained the Frog Immortal Art and the Snake Immortal Art from Minato and Kabuto respectively, and only the Katsuyu Immortal Art bed is left. Kawasaki plans to collect them all and practice together. It has to be admitted that San Shinobi's decades of research results, reincarnation of self-birth. It is not something that can be mastered in a short time. Fortunately, Kawasaki has a system given one for him to use. After using it once, he should master the technique faster. If he learns the Jisei Tensai technique as soon as possible, he will have another trump card. Kawasaki had planned to use the Jisei Tensai technique in conjunction with the Rinne Tensai technique. But the Rinnegan is still in Nagato. Nagato will definitely not allow him to revive others, and he dare not take the risk. If it is to revive his close friend Yahiko, Nagato and Konan will definitely agree, and maybe Kawasaki can also replenish Nagato's vitality. Thinking in his mind, Kawasaki took out the North Ring seized from Kakuzu. Started to contact Nagato. Strengthening his thoughts, Kawasaki performed the Phantom Body technique. Entered an unknown cave. When he arrived, Nagato's real body and Konan were waiting for Chi. Chapter 192. Shinra's Expedition. The Land of Whirlpools. Can your body withstand such a strong Shinra Tensai? Kawasaki was concerned about Nagato's physical condition first. There was no way, even though Tiandao Chaoran was so powerful outside. Nagato himself was as thin as paper and seemed to be able to fall at any time. Nagato nodded gently and said, "Don't worry. I spent a long time recovering beforehand, and followed your advice to accumulate chakra in advance before using this technique. It didn't have much impact on me." Then Nagato told Kawasaki that he had successfully tested the repeater mode, which could indeed make the transmission distance extremely long. There was just a delay. With this move on the battlefield, victory is within reach. Obito also appeared on the battlefield of the water country this time. Kawasaki continued to reveal some information about Obito to Nagato, including Obito's forced recruitment of Kakuzu and his intention to deal with Kawasaki's clone. This proved that Nagato and Konan's concerns were not unreasonable, and the real body of 930. Nagato must not be allowed to fall into Obito's hands. I didn't expect him to escape. Nagato shook his head and said, "It's okay. He knows Kakuzu's information and he threatens Ino. Obito's actions mean that he is planning to attack me. I have decided to fuse Hashirama cells. The organization has been torn apart by Kawasaki, and it is the best time to hide. Obito's actions have not been noticed yet. The disappearance of Konan and Nagato is inevitable." Hearing Nagato's words, Kawasaki understood that Ino wanted to take this opportunity to completely get rid of his weak body. Kawasaki did not dissuade him, but asked, "Do you want to revive Yahiko?" Konan and Nagato's pupils shrank, and Konan asked eagerly, "Kawasaki, what do you mean by this?" Kawasaki told Konan, "I got a secret technique from San Shinobi called Jisei Tensai, which can input vitality into the body of the recipient. I know Nagato's Rinne Tensai can revive the dead, but Nagato himself will also lose his life. With the reincarnation of the self, after Nagato resurrects Yahiko, Nagato will replenish his life history. Nagato's face was full of excitement and he said, "Kawasaki, are you telling the truth?" Kawasaki responded, "Of course it's true, when have I ever lied to you? Nagato just needs to use Rinne Tensai, and I will try to help Nagato replenish the lost vitality." "Okay. Konan, we can revive Yahiko." Nagato didn't revive Yahiko before because when Yahiko first died, Nagato had not yet mastered Rinne Tensai. Advertisement when he was able to do it, he had to exchange his life for another's. Nagato was not afraid of death, but even if he resurrected Yahiko, he could not change the current situation of the world. Small countries still live under the oppression of big countries, peace is far away, and ideals are slim. Therefore, Nagato dedicated everything to the great cause of peace. It was not until Kawasaki's appearance broke everything that Nagato wanted to keep his life to fight against Madara, the conspirator. Now that he can revive Yahiko and not die himself, Nagato is very excited. Konan and Nagato are equally happy, but after the joy, Konan gradually frowned. She said slowly, "Nagato, I'm afraid we have to postpone the plan to revive Yahiko." The joy on Nagato's face faded and he said, "Why?" Kawasaki was also puzzled as to why Konan opposed the immediate revival of Yahiko. Konan frowned and explained, "We have studied the Hashirama cell solution, and we need strong pupil power to suppress and stabilize it. If the Rinne Tensai technique is used, it will greatly consume pupil power, so the fusion of the Hashirama cell solution is very likely to fail." Kawasaki and Nagato suddenly realized that although the Rinne Tensai can replenish vitality, the pupil power of the Rinnegan cannot be replenished immediately. This is the key to the fusion of the Hashirama cell solution. Fusion Hashirama cell solution is not injected, but requires a long fusion process. During this period, the Rinnegan's pupil power is needed to stabilize and control. Nagato shook his head and said, "It's just a matter of waiting a little longer for the pupil power to recover. Compared with Yahiko's life, this little wait is worth it." Konan's face was full of worry and he said, "Obito and Zetsu are definitely looking for us everywhere. If you fuse the cell fluid one day later, it will be 10 times more dangerous." Nagato shook his head again and said firmly, "I have made up my mind, Konan, don't persuade me." Konan opened his mouth, but didn't say a word in the end. Kawasaki was standing by, and he had already figured it out. After Kawasaki and Nagato had a deep conversation, Nagato's original divine thoughts had disappeared, and now the appearance of Tiandao Pain was just a cover. Nagato was no longer the arbitrary person, so the reason why he rejected Konan was obvious. Before, Nagato was afraid that his fusion would fail, or worried that Obito would secretly kill him, so he asked Kawasaki to entrust his affairs. Now there is a chance to directly revive Yahiko. Even if something happens to him, Konan will not live alone in this world. Nagato is now walking on thin ice with every step. He would rather take more risks, but also leave a guarantee for Konan. This is probably the most sincere emotion between friends. Konan and Nagato have depended on each other for many years, and she naturally guessed Nagato's mind. Therefore, she was unwilling to Nagato took a risk. Advertisement even if it was a precious opportunity like resurrecting Yahiko. Kawasaki saw that the two stopped arguing, so he asked, "Where do we do this?" Nagato had made up his mind, and Konan stopped trying to dissuade him, but began to think about the place to implement it. "Why don't you come to Konoha? Come to our Uchiha territory, it will be very safe." Nagato shook his head and refused. "No, if we choose Konoha, if Obito has a way to control the Rinnegan, it will cause heavy casualties in Konoha." Kawasaki remembered the consequences of Tendo Pain when Konoha fought against the tailed beasts. Nagato's words made sense. After all, there was no guarantee that Obito or the long black Zetsu could control Nagato. It's better to be safe than sorry. If Nagato performed a Shinra Tensai at home, Kawasaki's efforts over the years would be in vain. "Then let's do it in the land of whirlpools," Kawasaki suddenly proposed. Konan asked in confusion, "Why choose Whirlpool Country?" Kawasaki smiled. "There is no special reason, I just thought of it temporarily, it is not easy to be discovered there." Nagato agreed with Kawasaki's opinion. "Okay, then Whirlpool Country." Kawasaki wanted to take Orochimaru with him, but Nagato and Konan obviously would not 2.3 trust the person who threatened to get rid of them. Besides, Orochimaru was also unable to do anything, so Kawasaki had to give up. Then, Kawasaki and Nagato agreed on a time and cut off contact. In Konoha village, the third Hokage has been working hard to improve Orochimaru's reputation recently. After all, many elite ninjas in Konoha have withdrawn from the battle sequence due to injuries. Once Orochimaru's cloning technology was made public by the third generation, many people came to him. The third generation was very busy, and at the same time, it also saved a lot of prestige. The third generation made the right move by pushing Orochimaru to the forefront. The third generation was originally quite satisfied. However, the news that the strong reinforcements invited by Mist Shinobi wiped out 3,000 Cloud Shinobi in one fell swoop on the battlefield of the Water Country and forced the Cloud Shinobi to withdraw was like a club hitting the third generation on the head. This war that was about to sweep the entire ninja world ended so quickly. Chapter 193, Third Hokage. This is the Rinnegan. It took less than a month from beginning to end. If they had known this earlier, they wouldn't have had to make so many compromises with the Uchiha clan. The third generation was very upset. But now that things have come to this, the third generation has no other choice. After all, he didn't expect Miss Shinobi to invite such a powerful helper. The third generation repeatedly checked the intelligence, examining it many times inside and out. Especially seeing the detailed description of the strange eyes of the leader of the Akatsuki organization in the intelligence. The third generation's heart tightened. Could this thing be the Rinnegan mentioned by Jiraiya? Such a treasure can't just appear casually. Could that person be Nagato? Because the information is important, the spy who trapped Hai even drew a portrait. The third generation summoned Anbu and said, "Where is Jiraiya?" Anbu replied softly, "Master Jiraiya went to the Flower Street yesterday and should still be there now." The third generation was furious. They were so worried about Konoha that they didn't even have time to use the farsightedness technique. Jiraiya was good, let him share some of the work, but he left after not doing much, saying that he didn't like this kind of work. The third generation said in an unhappy tone, "Go call Jiraiya." Anbu was about to leave in response, but was stopped by the third generation. "Wait, don't go to find Jiraiya yet." The third generation tidied up the documents on the table and handed them to Anbu. "Make a copy of these documents and send them to Orochimaru, and let Orochimaru notify Jiraiya. Also, notify the meeting in the afternoon, and notify the other elders." Anbu didn't ask much about such things. He acted according to the Hokage's instructions. He didn't say much and went down directly. It seemed unnecessary to ask Orochimaru to call Jiraiya. In fact, the third generation wanted to observe Orochimaru's reaction to these things. The war between Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi ended suddenly. It's time to take some countermeasures against Uchiha. In Orochimaru's laboratory, for the cloning of Fugaku's eyes, Orochimaru devoted a lot of effort and conducted matching experiments with Fugaku every day. During this period, Orochimaru also destroyed 2 eyeballs that he was not satisfied with. Itachi's eye fusion work is still ongoing. The progress is stable and only needs daily monitoring. Today, Orochimaru just received a message from Kawasaki, and then the third generation's Anbu arrived. And brought the battle situation in the Land of Water, asking Orochimaru to inform Jiraiya. Orochimaru was curious about Rinnegan. After reading the message sent by the third generation, he was Rinnegan is even more interesting. However, Kawasaki has told Orochimaru that there will be a chance to study Rinnegan in the future. So Orochimaru can continue his work at ease. Advertisement. As for notifying Jiraiya, I received the information. You go back and tell the old man that I am too busy here and will not attend the meeting. Just tell me the result after the meeting. I will arrange someone to notify Jiraiya. You can leave now. Anbu responded and went back to the temple. Various thoughts flashed through Orochimaru's mind. Then he called Minato. "Lord Orochimaru." Minato was still dressed in Anbu and put on a mask. Recently, in addition to training, he was also busy leaving the Flying Thunder God mark on some important people. In Kawasaki's words, it is better to be prepared. This can save lives at critical moments. Orochimaru asked Minato to mark everyone with the Flying Thunder God mark, which will definitely come in handy in the future. Orochimaru has no personal grudge against Minato. He did not bear a grudge against Minato when he lost the competition for the 4th Hokage. What he really bears a grudge against is the 3rd Hokage. At first, Orochimaru enjoyed the feeling of being a door. But over time, Minato's advantages were fully revealed, and Orochimaru began to enjoy this feeling even more. The third generation often inadvertently threw some government affairs to Orochimaru to handle. Although Orochimaru could handle it, it took up a lot of his time. So he simply threw it all to Minato, and Minato handled it very well every time. Who can not like a calm, smart, responsible, and reliable person? Orochimaru stuffed all the materials given to him by the 3rd Hokage to Minato. "Take a look at these, and then go find Jiraiya. Tell him the news and ask him to talk to the old senior." Minato took the materials and read them page by page. While Minato was reading the materials, Orochimaru looked Minato up and down. Because he had to hide his true identity, Minato wrapped himself tightly. Looked quite stuffy. "Minato, prepare all the disguises later, you may need to show up in the future." After reading the materials, Minato also understood why Jiraiya was notified. After listening to Orochimaru's instructions, he nodded. "Okay, Master Orochimaru, I understand. I'll go prepare it now and go find teacher Jiraiya first." In the flower alley of Konoha, Jiraiya was sleeping soundly in a store. The battle between Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi is likely to trigger a new round of Ninja World War. Therefore, Jiraiya could only stay in the village. But the Hyuga family's surveillance of him was so tight that it was suffocating. This made it impossible for Jiraiya to go out to collect creative materials. Advertisement: he could only run out occasionally to have some fun and drink to kill time. Although Jiraiya was taking a nap, but he was a veteran of many battles, and he would immediately wake up alert if someone approached. Unless the person was someone he was very familiar with. At this moment, Jiraiya was dreaming of being hugged by people on both sides and laughing happily. Suddenly, it felt like the whole world was connecting. It seemed that someone put his hand on his shoulder. Someone? Jiraiya woke up suddenly, but he found that the other person was the personal guard named Number 1, beside Orochimaru. Jiraiya wondered why he didn't wake up immediately, and asked, Number 1, what are you doing here? Looking at Jiraiya's face full of lipstick marks, Minato sighed in his heart. The teacher is still so unreliable, no wonder Master Tsunade doesn't like you. Minato handed the third Hokage's information to Jiraiya, and deliberately changed his voice and said, "This is the Hokage 200 people asked Orochimaru-sama to pass it to you." Although Jiraiya was a little confused about what happened just now, he was soon attracted by the information in his hand. How is it possible? Jiraiya stood up suddenly and was about to find clothes to wear. A pair of hands handed clothes to him, as if training a group. But Jiraiya was fully focused on the information, and couldn't care so much. He said thank you and put on clothes and went out. Minato looked at Jiraiya's back and smiled. In Konoha village. Jiraiya hurried to the Hokage's office. Yes, he still climbed in through the window. The third Hokage was waiting for him. This time, the third generation saw Jiraiya climb in through the window again, and it was too late to blame him. His mind was full of the identity of the leader of the Akatsuki organization. "Old man, did you just arrive?" The third generation snorted and said, "This was delivered last night." Jiraiya's face turned red, knowing that the third generation was unhappy with him going out for a drink. But he didn't expect that the matter would involve him. However, Jiraiya was thick-skinned and didn't care much about the third generation's dissatisfaction. He didn't explain, but pointed to the picture in the intelligence and said, "Old man, this is the Rinnegan." The third Hokage took a deep puff of his pipe and said, "So, this person is Nagato?" At this time, Jiraiya was a little confused and said, "No, this is not Nagato, this is Yahiko." Chapter 194 Sanin Jiraiya, Cloning Technology. Yahiko. The third generation frowned. Because of Conan's bombing of the Hokage Rock, the third generation specifically looked up the past events of that year. Combined with Jiraiya's information, isn't Yahiko dead? Jiraiya was also confused. I don't know what's going on, but these eyes are definitely Rinnegan. The third generation called Jiraiya to check the information, but now it seems that they don't match. Could it be that Nagato died and gave the Rinnegan to Yahiko? The third generation guessed. Jiraiya remembered Conan's words, and didn't think Conan was lying. This is contradictory. I don't know what's going on either. Jiraiya could only answer the third generation like this. The third generation didn't pursue it. Whether it's Nagato or Yahiko, the ability of the Rinnegan has been described clearly in the information. As your disciple, I have now gone astray. Don't you want to bring him back on track? The third generation said earnestly. The third generation had thought about Rinnegan before, but the plan was shelved because of Dronzer's defection. The key is that no one knows how powerful Rinnegan is. In this battle of Water Country, Tendo Pain killed thousands of people in one blow, which rekindled hope in the hearts of the third generation. There are rumors in the village that Konoha's masters have been losing in recent years. If Rinnegan can be introduced to Konoha, how amazing will Konoha's strength be? How much can his reputation be improved? As he is about to retire, the third generation also hopes to leave a good reputation for himself. After all, he is retiring, not really dying. Jiraiya thought about it and understood the third generation's calculations. If there is Rinnegan, Uchiha is not worth mentioning at all. He also wanted to find Conan and the others before, but the subsequent changes trapped him in Konoha. I understand, old man. Since Cloud Shinobi has retreated from the Water Country, this battle is probably not going to be fought again. I also plan to leave the village and look for them. The third generation is very confident in Jiraiya. As long as Jiraiya looks for them seriously, he will definitely find them. The third generation thought for a while and said to Jiraiya, "Jiraiya, I am ready to abdicate." Jiraiya was not surprised. He already knew what the third generation had done for Orochimaru recently. There are actually few suitable candidates for Hokage in Konoha now. The third generation is old. Last time, Orochimaru made Uchiha Kawasaki lose, and now he is concentrating on studying cloning technology. It allows many disabled people to be reborn and regain a healthy body. This is a very great achievement. Not to mention whether they can fight again, just being able to live like a normal person. This is what many disabled people dream of. Advertisement. Although the cost of cloning is still very high at present. But as Orochimaru's research deepens, the cost will inevitably decrease. Orochimaru's contribution is enough for him to sit firmly on the position of Hokage. Jiraiya thought for a moment and asked, "Old man, do you plan to let Orochimaru take over?" The third Hokage looked at Jiraiya and said, "What do you think?" Jiraiya laughed and said, "I have no objection. Orochimaru's scientific research can really help many people." Third generation looked at Jiraiya, who was free and easy, and knew that he had no interest in the position of Hokage. "That's good. If Orochimaru becomes the fifth generation, will you come back?" Jiraiya shook his head and said, "It depends on the situation. After all, I don't know if I can find them." "Okay, when do you plan to leave?" Jiraiya was concerned about the prophecy of the Child of Destiny and said, "I will go to Kawasaki first, and then leave immediately." Conan's visit was because of Kawasaki's invitation, and Jiraiya first thought of Kawasaki. Third generation nodded and said, "Then I know, you come back soon." In the Uchiha tribe, Kawasaki sent a shadow clone to meet Nagato and others. And he stayed in the clan. It's not because Nagato and the others are unimportant. He is the only one who has the privilege to open the dream training. Whether it's the perfection of Susanoo or the training of reincarnation, all of them are a huge drain on his time and energy. And there is no cost to practice in the dream. Kawasaki doesn't need to recover his physical strength or his pupil power, which has saved him a lot of time. As for the small trouble of time synchronization, it is insignificant in comparison. Kawasaki has received the news that the third Hokage will hold a meeting in the afternoon. Mostly it is about the discussion of the war in the water country. At this time, Iori came to report, "Clan leader, Jiraiya wants to see you." Oh, Kawasaki was quite curious. What was the purpose of Jiraiya's visit? "Where is he?" Iori replied, "He has been led to the reception room." Kawasaki responded, "After all, as one of the Sannin, he couldn't let him wait outside." Advertisement, I understand. I'll go there right away. Kawasaki walked into the meeting room and saw Jiraiya ready to go. "Oh, Master Jiraiya actually came to my little place." Kawasaki teased, but his face did not show any joy. After all, Jiraiya was the right-hand man of the third generation before. It was strange to greet him with a smile. Jiraiya was a little embarrassed. In fact, he was not willing to do those things, but he was even more reluctant to see the Uchiha clan and Konoha turn against each other. Kawasaki was cold on the surface, but he was secretly calculating in his heart. Recently, Tendo Pain has become famous, and the third Hokage is afraid that he can't sit still. Jiraiya probably came to find Konan and the others. At this moment, he still regards Nagato as the son of prophecy. "Kawasaki, you should have heard about the recent war situation in the Land of Water." Kawasaki looked up and said without any intention of cooperating, "Did I hear about it? Oh, I can't remember, I forgot." Jiraiya could only smile bitterly. "Kawasaki, stop joking, I want to ask, do you know where Konan and the others are now?" Sure enough. Kawasaki rubbed his chin. Jiraiya did come to look for the three people. But Nagato and Konan now have no intention of seeing Jiraiya again. Kawasaki snorted coldly, was silent for a moment, and responded impatiently. "I don't know much, it was Konan who contacted me. After the last incident, they have never contacted me again. But it is certain that Konan and the others should be in Rain Shinobi village. This is the information I know, believe it or not. I have something else to do, sorry I can't see you off." After saying that, Kawasaki left. Jiraiya was frustrated, but with his thick skin, this matter was naturally not a good thing. Besides, he felt that would not bully him. Since Kawasaki had left, Jiraiya had to give up. In Konoha village, in the meeting room, except for Fugaku who was busy with eye-cloning, the other elders were all present. Everyone had already received the notice. This meeting was most likely aimed at the sudden end of the war between Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi. And the recent movements of the Uchiha clan. It is undeniable that Uchiha has been very successful recently. Because of the war between Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi, the third generation did not want to be at odds with Uchiha at this time. The position of honorary elder was specially granted to Uchiha Kawasaki. And Kawasaki took advantage of the third generation's unwillingness to confront head-on and made a lot of activities. Buy off various clans with a lot of money. Even Kakashi is no exception, the Hyuga clan was also wooed. In recent days, rumors unfavorable to the third generation have been circulating throughout the village of Watami. The third Hokage responded well. Instead of refuting these rumors, he made Orochimaru's cloning technology public. Chapter 195 Orochimaru, Sister Tsunade. Orochimaru, who was once avoided by everyone, now everyone is vying to see him. Many disabled Jonin are looking forward to the restoration of their limbs. The family also hopes that they can return to the front line and serve the family. Orochimaru is very warm to these people. After all, they volunteered to be clone test subjects. Once the clone is upgraded, they have to pay for Orochimaru to try again. This is tantamount to paying money to provide Orochimaru with experimental subjects. Although Orochimaru will lose millions of materials every time he fails. But the value created by resurrecting a disabled Jonin is far greater than this. In the end, a situation where everyone is happy is formed. Orochimaru's reputation in the village is rising. Everyone speculates that the third generation may have new actions at this meeting. The third Hokage tapped his pipe and said, "The war between Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi has ended suddenly. The ninja world may enjoy peace in the short term. Some of the previous preparations can be put on hold for the time being." The third generation looked at Uchiha Kawasaki meaningfully. "In recent years, I feel that my energy is not as good as before, and I am unable to handle the affairs of Konoha. I have decided to formally elect the fifth Hokage." Wow! There was an uproar in the audience. The elders originally thought that the meeting was called because of the war between Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi, and even the appearance of the leader of Akatsuki. Unexpectedly, the third Hokage glossed over the war. The leader of Akatsuki was not mentioned at all. The candidate for Hokage can be proposed by the lower 110, or decided by the current one. The current one decides to choose the successor, which actually means that he is about to step down. Unexpectedly, the third generation took the initiative to resign. Everyone turned their eyes to Kawasaki, only to see that his eyes were slightly narrowed, and his mind was unpredictable. The third Hokage waved his hand to signal silence. Everyone was speculating when the contest between Uchiha and the third generation would end. Unexpectedly, the third generation directly used a big move. No more opportunities for Uchiha to accumulate political achievements. The third generation knew Kawasaki's methods well, and if they let him go, Uchiha is free to act. Kawasaki may have more tricks. Let the elders vote for a new Hokage. In this case, it is better to propose it first and seize the initiative. Advertisement, anyone object? The third generation looked around the room, and actually asked Uchiha Kawasaki. Sure enough, Kawasaki stood up and said, "Third Hokage, you have worked hard and contributed a lot to Konoha over the years. It is indeed time to enjoy your old age. I, Uchiha, believe that there should be a new Hokage to lead Konoha into a new stage. I, Uchiha Kawasaki, am confident that I can bring more prosperity to the village." Kawasaki looked around and announced in a firm and loud voice. As the honorary elder of Konoha village and the head of the Uchiha clan, I declare my participation in the election of the 5th Hokage. Everyone looked at each other. Uchiha Wen was taking on the challenge head-on. The third generation seemed to have expected this and said, according to the rules, the nomination of honorary elders must be voted on. Who agrees that Kawasaki can run for the election? The right to nominate the new Hokage originally belonged to the Hokage and the advisory elders. But those with the status of honorary elders also have the right to nominate. However, the nominees must be confirmed by voting. If they are not passed, the nomination will be invalid. Kawasaki raised his hand and said, "Fugaku and I have 2 votes." Since Fugaku was absent, Kawasaki explained on his behalf. Heishi and Hizashi looked at each other and raised their hands. The other 5 elders followed closely, only 9 votes in favor. But Kawasaki did not show any disappointment on his face. Instead, he smiled and said, "I have received 9 votes in favor." The third generation frowned slightly and then asked, "So, who are the people who oppose Uchiha Kawasaki's candidacy?" Udatane Kaharu, Mitokado Homura, and representatives of the Shimura and Sarutobi families, who sat on both sides of the Hokage, voted against. The big families such as Nara, Akamichi, Yamanaka, and Inazuka remained silent, and not speaking was equivalent to abstention. In addition, 2 elders voted against. The total number of votes against was only 6. Kawasaki nodded with satisfaction and then sat down calmly. The third Hokage's eyes swept across the representatives of each family. These people have recently received benefits from Kawasaki. When it comes to whether they will vote for him when electing the Hokage, it is hard to say. Voting against the nomination stage is undoubtedly a stain. Regarding Kawasaki's use of money to get through to the various families, the third generation knew what was going on. Since Kawasaki's nomination was successful, he didn't say much. "I nominate my apprentice Orochimaru to participate in this 5th Hokage election." The nominations of Hokage and advisor elders do not require voting. The elders below were mentally prepared, and no one raised any objections. Next, everyone turned their attention to Udatane Kaharu, Mitokado Homura, and the representative of the Akamichi family. Because Akamichi Tofu has been in poor health in recent years, he only sent a representative to attend each time. Advertisement. The representative waved his hand and said, "Elder Tofu has not nominated." Udatane Kaharu also shook his head to indicate that he had not nominated. Just when everyone thought that Mitokado Homura would not nominate, Mitokado suddenly said, "I nominate Tsunade to participate in the 5th Hokage election." As soon as these words came out, everyone was in an uproar. Everyone knew that Tsunade was now in the Uchiha territory, working for the Uchiha family. Nominating Tsunade at this time would be tantamount to publicly embarrassing Uchiha. Tsunade was qualified enough, and she had a very high status among the medical ninjas. Some medical ninjas who were unaware of the inside story would probably vote for Tsunade. No matter how many votes Tsunade got, it would inevitably affect her relationship with Kawasaki. Although Tsunade was unlikely to participate in the election, it was not a bad idea to discuss Uchiha. Kawasaki glanced at Mitokado Homura with contempt, but said nothing. The third Hokage also glanced at him, but did not comment. He tapped the table lightly, and the meeting room was silent. Then, "The candidate has been determined, and a vote of confidence will be held in a month." Quote, "All the Jonin of Konoha hold 1 vote. This 1-month buffer period is for candidates to canvass for votes. After the results of the confidence vote come out, the one with the most votes will become the next generation Hokage." After the Konoha high-level meeting ended, everyone dispersed eagerly. The Hokage arranged for the Hyuga clan to announce the news on the bulletin board. Such news spread very quickly. Within half a day, almost all the villagers had learned about it. When the news reached the Uchiha clan, they were very excited. Although they were excited on the surface, they did not lose their minds. After all, every decision made by the chief Kawasaki over the years has not disappointed them. For the Uchiha, as long as Kawasaki decides to do something, they support it. Kawasaki returned to the clan just in time for dinner. Tsunade finished her work at the hospital and was ready to come over for dinner. She always eats at Kawasaki's place because the dishes cooked by the chef trained by Kawasaki are novel and delicious. Sasuke and Naruto also ate with Tsunade. After a long time, Sasuke got used to Naruto calling Tsunade sister. After all, he had experienced his mother's lesson and understood that this was something that both parties wanted. Meddling in other people's business would only bring trouble to oneself. As long as you don't think about Tsunade's real age, there is nothing wrong with Naruto calling her that. Because of his eye problems, Fugaku likes to eat alone with Makoto and is not here. Kawasaki hadn't eaten with everyone for a while because his main body was not there. Sasuke and Naruto returned together, and both of them looked excited, especially when they saw Kawasaki waiting for them in the dining room. Chapter 196 Naruto Sasuke, 5th Hokage. Master, Senpai, are you going to run for the 5th Hokage? The two children still can't completely get rid of the influence of the word, Hokage. In their cognition, Hokage is very remarkable. For Sasuke, he knows what the position of Hokage means to Uchiha from what he has seen and heard since he was a child. What's more, his father and brother's eyes were injured by Obito. If the teacher can become Hokage, there will be more ways to fight against Obito. Naruto's situation is different. His dream when he was a child was to become Hokage. After experiencing the incident of the 3rd Hokage, he once rejected the position of Hokage. When he grew up and became more sensible, he also understood that his father was the 4th Hokage. He can look at the position of Hokage with a normal heart. Now that he knows that the person he respects and loves the most is going to run for the 5th Hokage, he is also very happy. On the other hand, his sister Tsunade is also going to run for the 5th Hokage. For a while, he was a little torn and didn't know who to support. Kawasaki hadn't seen Naruto for a while. He reached out and stroked each of their heads. Even you know this news? Sasuke nodded and said, the whole school has spread it. Naruto added, after we left school, people were talking about it on the streets. Kawasaki laughed dumbly. In fact, he was not very interested in the position of Hokage. Those things before were just to mislead the 3rd Hokage and make him make a wrong judgment. If the 3rd generation does not take the initiative to abdicate, Kawasaki will continue to win over the various ninja clans and continue to expose the 3rd generation's black materials until it is dismissed. However, the 3rd generation guessed Kawasaki's next step and simply took the initiative to start the 5th generation election. But for Kawasaki, the 5th generation election is just a formality. His real purpose is to do something else during the election. The candidate for Hokage has already been decided, and he has nothing to be excited about. It's just that others don't know, so it's a sensation. Teacher, when can dad and brother come back? Sasuke's words pulled Kawasaki's thoughts back and said, Fugaku and Itachi's eyes need to be cloned, and it will take about half a month. But their eyes have been copied, but they haven't opened yet. Sasuke said gloomily, will my brother not be able to train with me in the future? Kawasaki smiled. Sasuke, what are you thinking? Even if your brother is blind, you can't beat him. Advertisement Sasuke said in disbelief. I already have 3 Tomo now. How can my brother beat me if he is blind? Kawasaki didn't argue with him. Let's talk about it after Itachi recovers. Naruto, you and Sasuke are about to graduate. Who do you want to be in the same class with? When it comes to graduation, Naruto's eyes sparkle. In school, apart from cultural courses, they can't learn much. They all want to become ninjas and start to carry out missions. Naruto put his arm around Sasuke's shoulders and said, of course I want to be with Sasuke. As for the others, it doesn't matter. Anyway, none of them are as good as Sasuke. Right, Sasuke. Sasuke unnaturally broke free from Naruto's hand, pretending to be nonchalant and said, no one in the class is particularly strong, only you are stronger. It's not bad to be in the same group with you. Naruto said happily. It's settled, Sasuke, we will be inseparable from now on. Sasuke snorted and said, it's not up to us to decide the class division. Kawasaki comforted. Don't worry, I promise that I can arrange you to be in the same class, doctor. Naruto was so excited that he said, wow, senior is so awesome. What Kawasaki said before, it really came true, so his first reaction was not to doubt or verify, but to cheer directly. Seeing Naruto's excited look, Sasuke turned his head and muttered, fool. However, Kawasaki caught a smile from the corner of Sasuke's mouth. What are you so happy about? Tsunade just came from the hospital. Sister Tsunade. Naruto shouted happily. Although he had heard it many times, Tsunade could not help laughing every time he heard Naruto call him that. Tsunade-sama. Sasuke was now more familiar with Tsunade, so he was not so restrained. Well, what were you talking about just now? Advertisement. Naruto was eager to share his joy and said, just now, the senior said that after graduation, Sasuke and I would be assigned to the same class. Tsunade thought about it, and it was really possible that Sasuke and Naruto would be assigned to the same class. Tsunade nodded and said, Kawasaki is right, you two may really be in the same class. Okay, you go to the dining table first, I have something to say to Tsunade. Kawasaki drove the two boys to the table. Tsunade, the senior management held a meeting today, and the 3rd generation decided to officially elect the 5th Hokage. Oh? Was it the old man who proposed it? Tsunade asked in confusion. She knew all about Kawasaki's recent movements, and she thought he would ask for the 3rd generation to be removed. Kawasaki chuckled and said, the 3rd generation is not the kind of person who will sit and wait for death. Guess who he nominated? Tsunade rolled her eyes and said, "Who else could it be except you and Orochimaru?" Kawasaki shook his head and said, "The advisory elder Mitokado Homura nominated you for the 5th Hokage." Tsunade's eyebrows twisted together when she heard it, and she said, "I'm not interested in Hokage. That old stubborn guy is really meddling in other people's business." Tsunade was not stupid either, and she immediately realized that someone wanted to use her as a gun. Even if she didn't use her as a gun, she had to make Kawasaki uncomfortable. "I will withdraw from the election tomorrow." 0. Tsunade said that she really had no interest in becoming a Hokage. For her, her life was good now. She had a moderate amount of work to do every day, and she could gamble for fun after work. She had no worries about food and drink, and her brother would eat with her. If she became a Hokage, all these would be gone. She naturally didn't want to. Kawasaki stopped her and said, "Don't worry, it's too early to vote, I want to talk about another thing. Is it time for this batch of medical students to do internship?" When he mentioned this, his hands also hurt a little and said, "Yes, relying on theory and ordinary animals alone will have limited teaching effect. It's not wartime now, and there are not many wounded. You are far away from Konoha, and the wounded will not be sent here." Kawasaki had thought of this a long time ago and said to Tsunade, "It is precisely considering this that I plan to do free practical teaching for a period of time." Practical teaching? Tsunade didn't react for a while. Kawasaki explained in detail. "In actual combat, it is inevitable that some people will be injured. At that time, the medical class will have as many wounded as they want." Tsunade looked at Kawasaki as if he had seen a ghost and said, "I thought you wanted to make political achievements, but it turns out that you were thinking about this." Kawasaki shrugged, and he often used this trick. It's not deliberate political achievements, but it is better to let the newly graduated genin gain practical experience than to let them die in battle without knowing why. The genin died the most on the battlefield, and those who graduated from the ninja school are better now. In the ninja school during the war, as long as you can throw darts and shuriken, you can work even if you graduate. Chapter 197 Resurrection Yahiko, Kawasaki Blessing. For a genin who lacks actual combat experience, the chances of survival on the battlefield can be imagined. If there are more actual combat opportunities, the mission will be safer. Tsunade couldn't help but look at Kawasaki with new eyes. "I have to say, your idea is really good." Kawasaki smiled and said, "Let's go, let's eat." He then invited Tsunade to go eat together. In fact, Tsunade didn't know that once Uchiha became independent, they would have to run their own school and train their offspring. Uchiha has Sharingan, so cultural knowledge is easy to supplement, but teaching experience is insufficient. Now that we are doing practical teaching, it is just right to train some teachers and prepare for the future of the tribe. Several people quickly sat around the table. Because Kawasaki was eating at home tonight, he asked the chef to prepare a few dishes he liked. Mapo tofu, diving fish, fresh pot rabbit. Several people's tastes have been influenced by Kawasaki, and they prefer heavy-tasting food. Sasuke and Naruto also prefer heavy-tasting food when they go to the snack street. Kawasaki and 677. Tsunade did not forget to pick up food for Naruto. Naruto always happily ate the piled-up food cleanly. He has become accustomed to a life with a family and relatives. On the other side, Kawasaki's clone took the book and was heading to the Land of Whirlpools. After the Land of Whirlpools was destroyed, in order to search for the secrets of the Land of Whirlpools, almost all the major ninja villages were swept. The villagers of the Whirlpool village changed their names and scattered to various countries. Most of the sealing techniques of the Whirlpool village were mastered by Konoha. To be precise, more than 90% of Konoha's sealing techniques originated from the Whirlpool village. After several fruitless sweeps of the Land of Whirlpools by other ninja villages, they gave up. Due to the sweeps of many villages, this area has become extremely sensitive. Therefore, although the Land of Whirlpools is vast and has a pleasant climate, it is unoccupied, with only a few scattered civilians. It took Kawasaki 2 days to reach the Land of Whirlpools, and he used the ring to locate it many times on the way. After determining the location, Kawasaki went around for a long time before he found Conan's paper crane. Following Conan's paper crane deeper, he came to a seaside cave. Such caves are common on the seaside. The cave entrance will be submerged during high tide and will be exposed after low tide. Advertisement. Kawasaki followed the flying paper crane in. Walking on the water, the tide began to rise soon. The water level continued to rise, and the top of the head was close to the top of the cave. Conan's paper crane suddenly plunged into the water, and Kawasaki also dived forward. Conan's paper crane was waterproof, so it was fine for a short time. After diving forward for 5 minutes, Conan's paper crane gradually became wet. Just when Kawasaki was worried about whether the paper crane could lead the way, the paper crane suddenly rushed out of the water. Kawasaki also got out. Wow! The water surface was broken, and Conan was waiting on the shore. Kawasaki emerged from the water and looked around. He was still in the cave, but it had become a closed space. The flashing fluorescent stones around added some light to the place. "Kawasaki, you're here." Kawasaki slowly stood up from the water, wiped the water drops on his face and said, "You are really amazing, you can find such a hidden place." Conan said with a slightly embarrassed smile, "It's really troublesome for you to make this special trip." Kawasaki waved his hand and said indifferently, "Okay, let's go see Nagato." Conan led the way and bypassed two branching cave entrances before seeing Nagato. This was the first time Kawasaki saw Nagato face to face. The image he saw through the slide body technique before was blurry, but now, the high-definition and uncensored Nagato stood alive in front of Kawasaki. At this moment, Kawasaki really felt that it was a medical miracle that Nagato could survive until now. In his chest, the ribs were clearly visible and his abdomen was sunken inward. Some patients who couldn't eat looked like Nagato before they died. His back was full of black sticks, and his hands were placed in a signaling device. Nagato's face was also deeply sunken, and his whole state was just a small step away from Shinigami. "Kawasaki, you're here." Nagato looked very excited. After all, Kawasaki brought him a glimmer of hope. Kawasaki nodded in response and checked Nagato's physical condition back and forth. "It looks like your vitality has been drained by the Gedo statue." Nagato said gloomily. "Yes, otherwise I wouldn't be so passive." Kawasaki thought for a while, then said to Nagato. "Advertisement, Nagato, I know that the Rinne Tensai technique will consume a lot of pupil power and vitality. But I have a way to transfer vitality to your body." Conan was surprised when he heard it. "You want to give your vitality to Nagato, what will you do?" Kawasaki replied nonchalantly. "I am from the Uchiha clan, there are many ways to deal with it, you don't have to worry about this." Although Conan and Nagato don't know what Kawasaki is going to do. But according to Kawasaki's personality, he shouldn't put himself in danger. Whirlpool Country, in a seaside cave, the original plan was that you would use the Rinne Tensai technique to revive Yahiko, and I would transfer vitality to you at the same time. But now seeing that you are in such a bad condition, I plan to adjust the order. I will give you vitality first, and if there is still some, I will consider resurrecting Yahiko. Nagato thought for a while and said, "I am afraid that I don't have enough vitality to resurrect Yahiko." "Then you should let me give you vitality first, and then decide whether to resurrect Yahiko according to the situation. You have to leave a body that can fight." Kawasaki winked at Conan. Conan also persuaded Nagato. "Yes, Nagato, we will think of a way to deal with Yahiko later, but you can't make any mistakes." Nagato was silent for a while, looking at Conan's worried eyes, and finally listened to Kawasaki's opinion. "Okay, Kawasaki, what should we prepare?" Kawasaki said the steps he had thought of on the way. "First prepare Yahiko's body and take down all those black sticks. In my opinion, if there is enough vitality, Nagato, you should be able to stand up. Conan, you hold Nagato, I will use my own reincarnation to transfer life force to him first. It takes time for life force to flow to Nagato. During this process, if Nagato's life force is almost full, tell me. I will tell you how much life force you can inject into Nagato. This way you can judge whether you can revive Yahiko." "Okay, time is running out, let's do it now." Kawasaki explained it clearly, and Nagato and Conan also said they understood. Nagato summoned the other 5 with a summoning technique. Together with Conan, they took off all the black sticks on Yahiko's body. Yahiko was laid flat on the ground. Then Nagato first pulled his hand out of the wooden cart, and Conan stepped forward to support Nagato and slowly brought him down. At this time, Kawasaki noticed that Nagato put his hand into the wooden cart. Because the black stick behind him was too heavy, he couldn't stand on his own with his disabled legs. With the support of Conan, he could barely stand. Kawasaki found that Nagato's footbones were still there, but the tendons above the calf had long been twisted and deformed. No wonder he couldn't stand. Nagato had a hard time standing like this, and Kawasaki didn't waste time. He walked up and said, "Get ready." Nagato looked at Yahiko on the ground and nodded. Kawasaki pretended to make a few seals. Then, the effect of Jisei reincarnation appeared, and light shone from his palms and fell on Nagato. Chapter 198 System Reward, Rinne Tensai Technique. As Kawasaki expected, the system's compensation capacity matched his actual body. This was true whether it was the opening of the curse seal or the current self-reincarnation. Since Kawasaki already had the physique of the Uzumaki clan, after using the self-reincarnation. A powerful life force directly poured into Nagato's body. Nagato's body was like a long thirsty land welcoming the rain, greedily absorbing this life force. An unprecedented sense of comfort spread from all parts of the body. Nagato couldn't help but exhale. What a magical secret technique. Nagato sighed. This technique was created by the grandmother of the Red Sand Scorpion, Chiyo of Sanagakure. The original intention was to revive the son and daughter-in-law who died in the war. Kawasaki, while slowly inputting life force, he answered. "But it can only revive people who died recently, otherwise I would have resurrected Yahiko directly." Nagato sighed, another product born from the pain of war. Kawasaki steadily injected vitality, observed Nagato's tolerance, and then gradually increased the dosage. The first thing that changed was Nagato's mental state, which was getting better little by little. In the past, Nagato always looked exhausted, and the injection of vitality gradually restored his mental outlook. The color of his dull red hair gradually deepened. The wrinkles on his face decreased, and his sunken cheeks gradually became fuller. Nagato's exposed upper body gradually became plump, the muscles under the skin began to appear, and the outline of his sternum was no longer clear. The muscles in his calves also crawled and recovered. Nagato whispered. Conan, let go. Conan was originally supporting Nagato, and he slowly let go of his hand after hearing this, and Nagato actually stood up by himself. At this time, Kawasaki's hand was still on Nagato's body, continuing to deliver vitality. Kawasaki, your vitality is so strong that it is almost similar to the physique of our Uzumaki clan. Kawasaki smiled in his heart. That's right, he has the physique of the Uzumaki clan. Nagato sighed and said, my body has recovered about 80%, and it should be no problem to revive Yahiko now. After listening to this, Kawasaki estimated the amount of vitality he could still provide. I can still output a lot of vitality. Conan, prepare to pull out the black stick behind Nagato. Conan was shocked. These were all embedded in Nagato's body. Kawasaki had not mentioned this before. Conan looked at Nagato and asked, Nagato, do you want to respond? Nagato thought about it, nodded and said, try it, one by one. Kawasaki had been controlling the transmission speed of the reincarnation before. After all, Nagato is not a dirty body now, and cannot roughly absorb the chakra of 8 tails. Nagato was in a very bad state just now, he would not be able to bear too much at a time. Now that Nagato is in a better condition, the black stick must be pulled out again. Advertisement Kawasaki was going to increase the intensity and said, pay attention, I will gradually speed up the transmission of life force. Conan, prepare to pull out the black stick. Conan no longer needed to support Nagato, and was already standing behind him. Kawasaki accelerated the input of life force, and Nagato nodded to Conan. Conan suddenly pulled out the black stick behind him. Poof. Cough. A stream of blood immediately spurted out of Nagato's mouth. Conan threw the black stick aside and said, Nagato, how are you? Nagato took a breath, and with the input of life force from Kawasaki, he calmed down in a few seconds. Kawasaki, can you continue? Nagato was worried that Kawasaki's life force was not enough. Kawasaki shook his head and said, don't worry about me, if it's not enough, I will tell you in advance. Conan, sell it. Conan was not a person who would drag his feet. Seeing that Kawasaki still had some strength left, he pulled out another black stick. Nagato groaned, but his wound healed quickly under Kawasaki's reincarnation. Conan continued to pull out the black sticks one by one. Just as Conan was pulling out the black sticks from Nagato's body. Far underground in the mountain cemetery. On a huge lotus platform, the ghetto statue sitting cross-legged let out an incomprehensible roar. EQ. The land of whirlpools. In a cave on the seaside. Ahem. As another black stick was pulled out, blood spurted out of Nagato's mouth again. But his eyes were not filled with pain, but shock. Because Kawasaki's hands, which were pressed tightly against his body, were still powerfully delivering life force. How much life energy can Kawasaki still input? How many more? Nagato felt the blood and chi in his body gradually become stronger, and asked in a deep voice. Only 2 left. Conan answered from behind. Kawasaki had noticed Nagato's recovery, and suggested, pull them out together, and get ready to cast the Rinne Tensai technique immediately. Okay. Conan was still nervous when he pulled out the black sticks before, but now that everything was under Kawasaki's control, his courage doubled. Conan grabbed the 2 black sticks and pulled them hard. Poof. Blood gushed out of the hole on Nagato's back. Advertisement however, the wound began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. Kawasaki estimated that only 30% of the life force left in Jisei Tensai was left. Nagato, right now. I can still give you 30% of your life force. Okay. Nagato responded. Kawasaki still had more energy than he expected. Nagato had fully recovered. Now using the Rinne Tensai technique would no longer endanger his life. Nagato put his hands together and formed the C character seal. Outer Dao, Rinne Tensai technique. Nagato's voice became younger and more confident. As soon as the words fell, his Rinnegan shone brightly. The powerful pupil power spread, and the target was the body of Yahiko beside him. The hole in Yahiko's body that was pierced by the black stick on the bendo was slowly restored under the effect of the Rinne Tensai technique. Dong dong. The heart that had not beaten for many years began to beat again. The blood began to circulate, and Yahiko's body gradually became pale. When Nagato used the Rinne Tensai technique, 237 Kawasaki only felt the opposite side. Nagato was like a huge hole, madly absorbing life force. Kawasaki increased the transmission of life force in both hands to the limit. In just a few seconds, the life force of the self-reincarnation technique given by the system was all transmitted to Nagato. To be continued under the effect of Rinne Tensai technique. Nagato's newly recovered strong body gradually became thin again. Fortunately, when Nagato returned to a slightly thin state, Rinne Tensai technique finally stopped demanding from him. Ding! Congratulations to the host for greatly changing Yahiko's life trajectory. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Water-style Water Dragon Bomb Technique X1, can replace the same series of ninjutsu. Kawasaki checked it out and without hesitation replaced the Water Dragon Bomb technique with the Uzumaki Iboshi. Currently, in the water system, this secret technique of the Kazuna clan has the best cost-effectiveness. On Yahiko's side, he blinked slightly and Conan slowly opened his eyes in a look of excitement and expectation. Yahiko sat up in a daze. Am I not already dead? Yahiko checked himself but found no wounds. He looked up at Konan, but Konan's eyes were full of tears. Konan and Nagato have been waiting for 15 years. At this time, Kawasaki walked to Nagato and met Nagato. Nagato smiled, and it was the first time he laughed happily in the 15 years since Yahiko's death. Chapter 199 Ghetto Statue. Black Zetsu. Nagato looked at Yahiko and Konan hugging each other, and followed Kawasaki out with a smile, saying just like many years ago. Konan, remember to tell Yahiko about your current situation. Nagato turned the corner with Kawasaki and left, leaving space for the couple who had been separated for more than 10 years. Over the years, Konan has been very strong, but when he saw Yahiko resurrected, he still couldn't help crying. After Nagato and Kawasaki walked out, Konan's emotions gradually calmed down. At this time, Yahiko looked at Konan, and as his consciousness gradually became clear, he found that Konan had changed a lot compared to his memory. Konan, what happened? Why am I not dead? Konan wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and looked at Yahiko's confused look. He laughed and said, Yahiko, you are not dead, we just resurrected you. Kawasaki and Nagato came out, and Nagato sighed, I didn't expect it to be so smooth. Thanks to you, Sake. I didn't expect you to have such a huge vitality. Although Nagato didn't know why Kawasaki gave so much life force but was safe and sound. But since Kawasaki said there was a way, Nagato didn't ask much. After all, it was Kawasaki's secret. Kawasaki shook his head and said, after the black stick was removed, can't you sense the ghetto statue? Nagato shook his head and said, the induction has weakened, and it is almost impossible to track from the ghetto statue to here. But when I pulled out the black stick just now, I had a connection with the ghetto statue. The abnormality of the ghetto statue may be discovered, and I may be in danger here. I plan to fuse Hashirama cells in advance to enhance my own experience. After Nagato recovered, his overall strength improved a lot. Now the power of 6 paths is concentrated in one body, which is extremely powerful. But Obito's spatial ability is too strange, and he may still die if he is not careful. It would be fine if Obito did not find the abnormality of ghetto statue. If Obito noticed it, he would definitely go all out to find Nagato. Advertisement Kawasaki is very clear about the detection ability of Ju. The solution of Hashirama cells was given to Nagato by Kawasaki earlier, hoping that Nagato could use it to repair his body. Unexpectedly, until now, his body has been repaired in advance by Kawasaki's self-reincarnation technique. With Nagato's healthy Uzumaki physique, plus the blessing of Rinnegan, injecting Hashirama cell solution should be incurable. Recalling the experience of using self-reincarnation, Kawasaki has already understood this secret technique to some extent, and he may be able to learn it soon. After listening to Nagato's words, Kawasaki thought for a moment and said, this is good. If you fuse Hashirama's cells, Obito will not be your opponent at all. It can also ensure your own safety. Nagato said to Kawasaki at this time, Kawasaki, I hope you can take Konan and Yahiko away. Kawasaki narrowed his eyes and said, what are you worried about? Nagato shook his head and said, I don't know, I always feel uneasy. I want to wait until the fusion is complete. Don't think of abandoning us. A voice sounded. Yahiko and Konan walked out. Yahiko bowed to Kawasaki first and said, thank you, Mr. Kawasaki, for allowing us to reunite. Nagato and Konan are older than Kawasaki. But Yahiko was only 15 years old when she died, and 15 years have passed now. Nagato has been controlling her body for 15 years, so he should be 30 years old. But Yahiko is reborn, and he still thinks he is younger than Kawasaki. Kawasaki shook his head and said, it's hard to calculate your age, so just call me by my name. Yahiko nodded and asked Nagato, did you intend to face the danger alone just now? Nagato was speechless. Now that Yahiko has just been resurrected, his strength is extremely weak. Besides, Konan waited for 15 years for Yahiko to return, and he didn't want them to take risks because of him again. Yahiko punched Nagato's chest hard and said seriously, we are close friends. How can we abandon our brothers and take risks alone? Nagato was about to speak. Bang! A heavy blow landed on Nian's head. Then, he slowly fell to the ground. Nagato stared at Konan, who had withdrawn his hand, full of disbelief. Konan, what are you doing? Konan looked at Yahiko tenderly and said, Yahiko is right, we are the best partners. So I have to face the danger with you. Konan, it is safest for you to go with Yahiko. Nagato disagreed with Konan staying. He knew that the road ahead was more dangerous and did not want Konan to take risks. Konan said firmly, we have been together for so many years and have a tacit understanding. I can't leave you alone. Yahiko is too weak now. I hope you can help take Yahiko away. Advertisement Nagato frowned and said, no, you have to go with Yahiko. You two finally get together. Konan said with a firm look in his eyes, I will never leave you alone. The atmosphere froze for a moment. Kawasaki sighed and said, Nagato, don't argue, Konan will not leave you alone. Nagato was speechless for a moment. He knew Konan would not leave, but he really didn't want Konan to take risks again. The past was too painful to look back on, and he didn't want to repeat the same mistake. Conan had taken care of Nagato for 15 years, so he naturally understood his thoughts. Therefore, Conan did not give in at all. Nagato, we can deal with most dangers together. It's too easy for you to get into trouble alone. Kawasaki patted Nagato's shoulder and said, you have injected Hashirama cell fluid, you can't be left alone. Nagato's attitude softened. Kawasaki made a decision directly and said, don't argue with the two of you, just leave like this. Otherwise, I won't take Yahiko with me. Maybe I have to wake him up and see how you explain it to him. After listening to Kawasaki's words, Nagato and Conan stopped arguing. They understood Kawasaki and knew he would really do this. Nagato's expression softened and said, thank you for your hard work, Conan. Conan smiled, as if she would feel at ease only if she fought side by side with Nagato. Kawasaki, there is no time to lose, you should take Yahiko away as soon as possible. Kawasaki felt the chakra, if he wanted to return, he had to leave early. After all, there were still more people holding him back, and he didn't know how long it would take. Nagato and the others didn't know he was a shadow clone. Are you going to prepare now to fight Hashirama's cell fluid? Nagato clenched his fists and felt the vigorous vitality in his body. I'm in good condition now, and I'll start to fuse after my pupil power recovers. Obito and Black Zetsu may come at any time, we can't delay any longer. Kawasaki, please take Yahiko away first. Nagato's tone was a bit pleading. Kawasaki understood Nagato's feelings and stopped asking. He took out a book from his arms and stuffed it into Nagato's arms. I brought this to you, from the king, maybe it will be useful. Nagato looked at the book titled, The Legend of the Strong-Willed Ninja. Seeing this book, Nagato's heart trembled, and the memories that had been sealed for many years came flooding back. Involuntarily, Nagato held the book in his arms and said, thank you, Kawasaki. Kawasaki nodded, pulled up Yahiko and said, you two should be careful. Conan, remember the box I gave you? Conan smiled and said, yes, Mountain Cemetery. In the air, an Uzumaki appeared here. Obito was alone, and Kakuzu's whereabouts were unknown. Obito came back and asked Zetsu, how is Danzo? White Zetsu gloated, forget Danzo, there's movement in the ghetto statue. Obito was shocked, but said calmly, what's going on? Black Zetsu replied, the connection between the ghetto statue and Nagato has weakened, and Nagato seems to no longer provide it with energy. I tried to contact Nagato with the ring, but I couldn't get through. Obito's face darkened and said, sure enough, Chapter 204 Symbol Seal. Zetsu asked in confusion, what happened? Obito then told how he ambushed Bingley but was deceived. Zetsu looked at Obito and his eyes changed. You have been following him, and you don't know whether he used Shadow Clone or not. Obito frowned and said, I am sure that he did not use Shadow Clone on the way. White Zetsu sneered. You mean he is Shadow Clone? How can Shadow Clone be so strong? Obito snorted, he knew it was impossible. It seems that Bingley used Shadow Clone somewhere, and he didn't notice it. Black Zetsu said in a heavy tone, you and Nagato have completely fallen out. No wonder the ring can't contact him. Obito wanted to get new information. Unexpectedly, the tacit understanding with Nagato broke down instantly. Now, Nagato must be found immediately. After all, Nagato holds the most crucial thing, Rinnegan. Obito felt more and more that many things were beyond his control. He understood that many things must be handled personally to ensure that there would be no accidents. Things turned out to be like this. Black Zetsu's voice was filled with annoyance. Black Zetsu originally planned to use Nagato as a sacrifice for Rinne Tensai for Uchiha Madara. But now, this sacrifice is out of control, so he has to use the alternative plan and let Obito take his place. Obito's face was not looking good either. Nagato, who had spent years trying to control, suddenly lost control. Before Kawasaki appeared, everything went smoothly. After Kawasaki appeared, everything went wrong. Besides, Kawasaki's Mangekyo Sharingan specifically countered him. Obito couldn't help but wonder if he had a grudge with Kawasaki when he was a child. Why did Kawasaki always target him? Ju, immediately conduct a large-scale search, we must recover the Rinnegan in advance. Now is not the time to think about it, we must find Nagato immediately. Hey, Black Zetsu exhaled slowly, there is no way. It just so happens that this Danzo has no signs of waking up, just treat him as my new wrong Chaba. White Zetsu asked Obito expectantly. At this time, Obito had already checked Danzo. Danzo's body transformation was complete, but his consciousness was completely silent. He would not wake up again, and even if Hokage was mentioned, he would not react. Obito had only used Danzo as an experimental material before, but now the experiment was over. Danzo's life or death was no longer important, you can do it yourself, it's just a waste recycling. Hee hee hee. White Zetsu laughed triumphantly and said, can you experience the feeling of defecation on him? Zetsu split from the middle, splitting into Black Zetsu and White Zetsu. Half of White Zetsu bounced on the ground, and its body swelled and attached to Danzo. Advertisement with a creaking sound, it gradually merged into Danzo's body. Danzo's skin was covered with a layer of white film, which wrapped him again. Then it crept up, spreading from the body to the neck. Finally, it covered the entire face. A white Zetsu that looked similar to the previous one appeared on the scene again. The Danzo version of white Zetsu said excitedly, "Ah, I feel it, I feel it. This is the feeling of defecation." The Danzo version of white Zetsu ran away, aiming at a place it had been curious about for a long time but had never been to. On the other side, black Zetsu said helplessly, "What a troublesome guy." A new white Zetsu emerged from the ground and slowly merged into the other half of black Zetsu's body. But looking closely at the face of this white Zetsu, it looked a little stupid. Black Zetsu stomped his feet, and many white Zetsu poked their heads out. "Find Nagato's whereabouts with all your strength." The white Zetsu responded, and then all went underground. In the territory of the Land of Fire, Kawasaki carried Yahiko on his back and had crossed the border of the Land of Fire. Kawasaki threw Yahiko to the ground. Yahiko fell heavily to the ground and still did not wake up. Kawasaki made a few seals. Water style, water impact. Poof! A stream of water sprayed directly onto Yahiko's face. Yahiko woke up in a daze. Hiss! It hurts. Yahiko touched the back of his head and looked around and said, "Why am I here? Where are Nagato and Konan?" Kawasaki looked at this super brother-like but dull Yahiko and felt that it was not coordinated. "Nagato can be easily found by Obito, so he asked me to take you away." Konan stayed and went forward and backward with Nagato. Yahiko was immediately excited when she heard it and said, "How can that be? I want to be with them." Kawasaki stretched out his hand to stop Yahiko, who wanted to get up, and said, "With your current strength, CIBH, you will only be a hindrance if you go." "Impossible." Yahiko pushed Kawasaki's hand away. Kawasaki's hand was thrown away instantly. "Oh?" Kawasaki looked at his hand that was thrown away. It was a bit unbelievable. It stands to reason that Yahiko was only 15 years old when he died, and his strength should be limited. Yahiko stumbled and almost fell. Yahiko looked at his hands in disbelief. He stamped his feet hard. A pit immediately appeared on the ground. "How did my body become so strong?" Yahiko was surprised. Advertisement. Kawasaki then remembered that Yahiko's body could fight Naruto in Sage Mode with taijutsu at that time. Did Nagato and the others transform Yahiko's body? Although Yahiko didn't know the reason, he was obviously more confident. "Kawasaki, I must go back," Kawasaki yawned. Even if Yahiko's body was transformed, he was still not his opponent. He just didn't react just now. Kawasaki looked Yahiko up and down and said, "Okay, as long as you can beat me, I will let you go back. If you lose, you have to listen to my arrangements." "Okay." Yahiko rushed up with confidence. Bang! Kawasaki and Yahiko collided fiercely. Yahiko was full of confidence, but he didn't expect Kawasaki to be much stronger than he thought. Bang! Bang! Every punch and kick of Yahiko was accurately caught by Kawasaki. Kawasaki followed Yahiko's attack and rolled and dodged flexibly. After several physical attacks, Yahiko found that, although his strength and speed were much greater than before, he was still no match for Kawasaki. Kawasaki even kept on passive defense and did not take the initiative to attack. In the cave, Konan had briefly told him some things about these years, and emphasized that Kawasaki was a trustworthy person. He knew that Kawasaki was the head of the Uchiha clan, but he couldn't make him take it seriously even if he tried his best. Yahiko was amazed. The reason why Kawasaki kept on passive defense was to see how strong Yahiko was now. Although Yahiko's body had been strengthened long ago, his physical skills alone had surpassed the Jonin level. But this strength was far from that of Tiandao Keoj. After a long time of attack, Yahiko stood up and made 3 seals. "Kawasaki, be careful. Water style, water dragon bomb." Yahiko blew his mouth and sprayed a huge stream of water at the ground. Kawasaki thought it was funny and said, "This is not a good idea. Make the seals faster. Water style, water wall." Boom! A sky-high water wall stood up in front of Kawasaki. It covered him tightly. Yahiko was stunned. Isn't Kawasaki from the Uchiha clan? The Uchiha clan can use water style so well. The water wall disappeared, and Kawasaki disappeared too. Kawasaki appeared in front of Yahiko in an instant. Yahiko quickly took precautions, but Kawasaki had already understood Yahiko's strength, so he stopped messing around with Yahiko. Kawasaki pushed Yahiko's hand away, and the 4-symbol seal was instantly imprinted on Yahiko. Chapter 201. Selecting the 5th Hokage. The sealing technique climbed up Yahiko's whole body, and Yahiko lost his strength immediately. He took 2 steps back and sat on the ground. Sealing technique. Yahiko was shocked. It was natural that the Uchiha clan was good at physical skills, but what about this water style and sealing technique? Shouldn't they be good at fire style? Kawasaki squatted down and looked at Yu, who was a little embarrassed. "Tisk tisk, with your strength, let alone sharing hardships with Nagato, it's good enough that you don't hold him back. Now Nagato, it's easy to defeat 100 of you." Yahiko rubbed his hair in annoyance and said, "Hey, is the gap between me and Nagato so big?" Kawasaki stretched out his hand. Yahiko grabbed Kawasaki's hand and was pulled up by Kawasaki. "Okay, don't worry about them." At this point, Yahiko could only accept the reality. Can they really deal with Obito? Yahiko always missed his 2 best friends. Especially knowing that they had been running around for 15 years after his death, I felt a pang of pain in my heart. Don't worry about this problem. I have given them enough cards. Their lives will not be in danger. Now, you have lost and can only let me deal with you. Kawasaki said with a smile. Ah, well, Yamazaki, what do you want to do? Yahiko scratched her head, thinking that Kawasaki was just talking casually. Kawasaki looked at Yahiko's hair and said, I have to change your hairstyle first, so that you can't be recognized. Recognized? By whom? Yahiko was confused. Don't worry about this. Stand still, or I won't care if you get hurt, Kawasaki laughed. He made a seal and said, water style, water/wave. Puff. So fast, Yahiko was shocked and didn't have time to react. The high-pressure water blade instantly swept through his hair, cutting his hedgehog head into a flat head. Yahiko's pupils suddenly dilated, and he felt like he had brushed shoulders with death. But it wasn't over yet. Kawasaki adjusted the angle and trimmed Yahiko's hair on both sides with 2 more water blades. The water blade passed close to Yahiko's ears. Kawasaki released the seal on his hand and said, no one can recognize you this way. Advertisement, just go back and trim it properly. At this time, Yahiko was shocked and broke into a cold sweat. Such an advanced water-style ninjutsu was just for cutting his own hair? Yahiko swallowed and said, there is no need for such an advanced technique. Kawasaki patted the dust on his body and said, I didn't bring scissors, I use this less. Or do you like me to burn your hair with fire style? Yahiko thought of Kawasaki breathing fire on his head and shook his head. That's good, that's good. Okay, your Akatsuki organization has been disbanded now, so you can hang out with me from now on. Yahiko was a little dazed. For him, the world had changed so much after just sleeping. He didn't know what was happening with Akatsuki now, and Conan also told him that Akatsuki was forced to disappear. I guess Conan couldn't tell you too much in such a short time. Things over the years are quite complicated. If you are interested, I can tell you in detail before we return to Konoha. Yahiko turned her head and looked into the distance, where Nagato and Conan were. Okay, Konoha village is about to elect the 5th Hokage. Among the 5 major countries, the most economically prosperous fire country and Konoha village are about to welcome the new Hokage. This news swept the entire ninja world like a storm. Konoha village's trade and mission systems are extremely developed. There was also an endless stream of ninjas from outside. Within a few days, everyone in the ninja world knew about this. Moreover, the list of candidates spread like wildfire. Those who had heard of Konoha were surprised that someone from the Uchiha clan was running for election. And it was the currently powerful Uchiha Kawasaki. The names of the other 2 candidates were unexpected, but reasonable. Reasonable because Orochimaru and Tsunade were both students of the 3rd Hokage, so it was natural for them to run for Hokage. However, it was unexpected because Orochimaru had betrayed the village. Tsunade had been away from the village for many years, and now even worked for the Uchiha clan and served them. Orochimaru dared to stand up and run for election, because of the high success rate cloning technology he developed. This technology can save some injured elite ninjas and has made great contributions to the enhancement of Konoha's strength. Konoha's ninjas all praised it. Ninjas from other villages were also envious. In the turbulent ninja world, after every war, a large number of ninjas are injured and withdraw from the battle sequence. Most of them are disabled. If Orochimaru can really heal these injured ninjas, how much will Konoha's strength leap? Fortunately, Orochimaru's cloning technology is expensive and not affordable for ordinary ninjas. Therefore, the number of ninjas that can be cured is limited. Otherwise, each village would be unable to sit still at this moment. Advertisement even so, 2 villages still worried that Yi Shili will be too powerful in the future. Many villages have begun to increase their investment in medical research and try to develop similar technologies. In the team of Cloud Shinobi village heading to Mist Shinobi, the weaker ones all failed to survive. The remaining ones are some masters, so the return speed is a bit faster. Just when the news of Konoha's 5th generation election spread throughout the ninja world, Cloud Shinobi and his party finally landed and returned to their own village. The war launched by Raikage this time, the ending is tragic. It is not an exaggeration to describe it as tragic. 4,000 Naga genin died in the land of water. Cloud Shinobi was seriously injured. In contrast, Sanagakure was almost unscathed. Fortunately, the Raikage and the 2 Jinchuriki returned safely. Otherwise, Cloud Shinobi would have faced collapse. Despite this, the loss of 4,000 people still shocked Cloud Shinobi. If the Raikage had not consolidated his position with strength, his position as Raikage would have been unstable. 0.0 When the Raikage was considering how to communicate with Uchiha. Suddenly, news came that Uchiha Kawasaki was running for the 5th Hokage. He was greatly surprised and hurriedly summoned Dodai to discuss countermeasures. Konoha's change of Hokage is of great significance to all ninja villages. After all, the character of the Hokage directly affects foreign policy. Raikage-sama, I am so lucky that you returned safely. Before the Raikage retreated, Dodai learned that the Akatsuki organization had killed thousands of Cloud Shinobi ninjas in one blow. He never expected that Cloud Shinobi, which had been progressing so smoothly at the beginning, would suffer a heavy blow in an instant. The country had originally prepared for a long-term battle. As a result, Cloud Shinobi retreated so suddenly. However, if Recap had not retreated in time, the subsequent losses might have been even more severe. This was also a helpless move. Faced with such heavy losses, Recap has been looking bad in recent days. When he saw Dodai, his face eased a little and said, "Dodai, what's the matter with Uchiha Kawasaki's election for Hokage?" Dodai had expected Recap to ask this question, and he had collected information reports in advance. When Recap went to reinforce alone, the Uchiha clan intercepted Onoki at the border. But they seemed to have just fought for a while, and no large-scale conflict broke out. Then, our spies in Konoha found that Uchiha seemed to have a conflict with Konoha, and finally seemed to have reached some kind of exchange of interests. Konoha appointed Uchiha Kawasaki as the new honorary elder. Kawasaki used his status as an honorary elder to win over Kakashi and many ninja clans. The subsequent details are still unclear, but we only know that the third Hokage suddenly decided to select the 5th generation Mikan. Chapter 202 Recovering the Rinnegan Power. Uchiha Kawasaki proposed the nomination himself. Given his position as an honorary elder, a vote is required to count. Kawasaki had won over many ninja clans before. Perhaps because of this, the Uchiha family was nominated as the candidate for the 5th Hokage. The movie's thick fingers tapped on the table, making a dull thumping sound. Does Uchiha Kawasaki really want to compete for the position of Hokage? Dodai has always been very politically sensitive and said, based on Kawasaki's previous behavior pattern, it is unlikely, but it is not clear what he is planning. But one thing is certain. Dodai said calmly, the sudden resignation of the third Hokage is likely to be due to Kawasaki's pressure behind the scenes. Recap frowned and nodded. This time, Wooden Golem and Killer Bee returned safely, all thanks to Uchiha. Although the deal did not go through, we Cloud Shinobi owe him a favor. In the future, if Kawasaki needs anything, we must do our best to help him. 7, 2, 3. Touch-Eye already had the information about this battle, he knew it. Without the Uchiha family's Mangekyo Sharingan, it's hard to say whether the two Jinchuriki can come back. I understand. Touch-Eye agreed and took out a document. Reikage-sama, this is all the information we have collected on the Akatsuki organization. Reikage flipped through the information, which contained information about many members of the Akatsuki organization. Information about Kakuzu, Scorpion of the Red Sand, Deidara, Juzo Biwa and others was relatively detailed. These people were already famous rebels before joining Akatsuki, so their information was naturally rich. But other members, such as Feipu and the guy who was suspected to be the leader of the Akatsuki organization. Only their portraits and ninjutsu they were good at were recorded. Under Feipu, it was noted that he was a Grandmaster Water Style, mastered a secret technique that could instantly increase the amount of chakra, and was proficient in the secret techniques of the Hizuka clan. He might be a member of the Hizuka clan. Under Pain, it was written that he had a mysterious origin and was suspected to have a powerful eye technique that could break thousands of troops with one blow. In addition to the Akatsuki organization, information about Bing and Kwangu was also included. But Cloud Shinobi could only collect their facial features and their possible identities as remnants of the Wei Yoruichi clan and the Shui clan. Like Feipu, these two people also knew the same secret technique, but it was unknown what the connection between them was. Reikage flipped through the documents and was deeply impressed by these people. In the days ahead, we can only focus on recovering. Reikage sighed irritably. With such a powerful ally and trump card in hand, Cloud Shinobi won't be able to start a war again in a short time. At least, attacking Mist Shinobi is not an option. In a seaside cave in the land of whirlpools, Nagato and Conan are still hiding here. The eye power that was lost by using the Rinne Tensai technique has gradually recovered a little in the past few days. Nagato can even feel that since he stopped supplying energy to the Geto statue. The improvement of his health has played a key role in the recovery of Rinnegan power. Advertisement: the resonance generated by the golem makes Nagato feel particularly urgent. Although the eye power has not yet fully recovered, the body of the soil has doubled his confidence. He plans to inject Hashirama cell solution immediately. Due to Nagato's previous physical condition, Conan has carefully prepared basic medical equipment, nutrient solution and medicine. Thanks to Kawasaki, Conan was not short of money, and all his belongings were carried with him in storage scrolls. Conan spent some time to arrange the cave, and set up early warning devices around it. Nagato used this gap to test the remaining 5 panes. Even though the black stick behind him had been pulled out, Nagato could still control the remaining 5. It was just that the control range was limited, and Yahiko's resurrection caused the strength of the 6 paths to be greatly reduced. There was no time to create new 6 paths at the moment, and at most they could only do some containment, which was better than nothing. Conan prepared the bed, and Nagato lay on it, feeling the touch of his back falling to the ground. Nagato exhaled. Although he had lain down a few times recently, the hardship of not lying down for 15 years still made him attached to the bed. Conan knew Nagato's suffering over the years. Asked, "Would you like to rest first?" Nagato rubbed the bed affectionately, and said with a determined look, "There will be plenty of time in the future." Conan's eyes were also full of hope and said, "Yes, there will be plenty of time in the future." Then, Conan put together the function diagrams of the medicines and nutrients that might be used. After all, the future is unpredictable, so it is better to be prepared. Then, the basic monitoring equipment was connected. Because of long-term care for Nagato, Conan is already familiar with these instruments. However, medical equipment can only do so much, and at most monitor vital signs. The most important thing is the pupil power of the Rinnegan. Conan took out the glowing Hashirama cell solution. Inhaled into the syringe and flicked a few times. Carefully expel all bubbles without losing cell fluid. Nagato, although there are precedents, there are still risks in injecting such a large amount of cell fluid. It is unknown how long the fusion will take, you have to be mentally prepared. Conan raised the syringe and said, Nagato, I'm going to start. Nagato didn't say anything, just nodded slightly. Conan took a deep breath, inserted the syringe into Nagato's arm, and slowly pushed the cell fluid in. There was no reaction at first. As the blood flowed, the blood vessels under the gate slowly moved. Nagato groaned, and the Rinnegan gradually revealed a light purple glow. Advertisement as time passed, the blood vessels under the epidermis began to pulsate strongly, especially near the heart. DS. Nagato groaned in pain. Nagato, who had suffered for many years, could not resist the erosion of Hashirama cells. This pain seemed to come from the depths of his soul, making Nagato unbearable. Conan looked at the changing values on the instrument with a worried face. Soon, the instrument lost its effectiveness. Conan trusted Nagato and stood by silently. Time passed quietly. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Nagato's voice gradually became hoarse. He had never felt that time was so long. He could feel that Hashirama cells were gradually merging with his blood. Nagato felt relieved and thought it was about to end. In an instant, the will of Hashirama cells suddenly erupted. A huge pain came, and Nagato's body trembled violently. He cried out in pain. Ah! Conan was shocked, but he was helpless. Nagato endured the heart-wrenching pain and moved Rinnegan. The void seemed to be shaken, and a huge pupil power poured down. Nagato's mind was filled with complex and chaotic information, and fragmented images flashed one after another. He tried his best to drive Rinnegan, and under the suppression of pupil power, the frenzy of Hashirama cell will gradually stopped. The pain in Nagato's body dissipated instantly. He panted 4.6, his body relaxed for the first time in a long time, his clothes soaked with sweat, his mouth dry. His whole body was like he had just been pulled out of the water. Because of the previous severe pain, he found that his throat was also uncomfortable. Nagato opened his mouth wide, like a fish that couldn't breathe out of water. At this time, Conan fed the medicine into Nagato's mouth. Nagato swallowed it greedily as if it had received a sweet rain. He panted, and the burning throat was slightly relieved. Conan said with joy, "Did it succeed?" Nagato smiled bitterly. "This is just the beginning." After the Black Zetsu issued the order to search for Nagato, the White Zetsu immediately took action. In addition to the Rinnegan, they would also report other valuable intelligence they found. Countless White Zetsu used Mayfly technique to scout around. Soon, in the Fire Temple of the Fire Country, the White Zetsu found some important clues. Then they went back to report. Chapter 203 Fire Temple, Obito. Obito is planning at the mountain cemetery. The independent Danzo White Zetsu keeps eating, and he finds that the more he eats, the easier it is to have a bowel movement. So he becomes more and more addicted to food. Detective White Zetsu emerges from the soil and says, "In the Fire Temple of the Land of Fire, traces of Nine Tails chakra explosion were found, and the target is not Uzumaki Naruto." Obito stands up. Unexpectedly, Rinnegan was not found, but clues about Nine Tails were found. Naruto has never left the village, and there are signs of other Nine Tails explosions outside the village. This is very intriguing. As far as Obito knows, this kind of thing is rare, but it is impossible. For example, Cloud Shinobi's Golden Horn and Silver Horn were swallowed by Nine Tails. They obtained Nine Tails chakra by chewing the flesh and blood of Nine Tails. However, Golden Horn and Silver Horn had died many years ago. What other secrets are hidden in the Fire Temple? Black Zetsu was not used to his partner's silence, and he fell into deep thought after hearing this. He turned to Obito and said, "No matter who the other party is, get to know him as soon as possible. It's not easy to enter Konoha now." Obito also said with the same intention, "I'll go to the Fire Temple to wait for you, come and see." Uzumaki spun in the air, and Obito instantly disappeared into it. Obito's Kamui space has not brought Black Zetsu with him for a long time. Black Zetsu's eyes flickered, and he slowly sank into the ground. 28. Ding. Successfully recruited Yahiko. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the charisma of a leader. Can replace existing talents. Kawasaki persuaded Yahiko all the way from the Land of Fire to Konoha, and finally persuaded Yahiko. After learning about Kawasaki's plan for the strongest force, Yahiko joined Kawasaki's team. This is the first time Kawasaki has recruited someone after the system upgrade. "Oh, what is charisma?" Kawasaki looked curiously. "Charisma. When you are a leader, your words and actions are more convincing." Kawasaki was speechless. It turned out that this was how the Akatsuki organization started. Fortunately, he didn't need those. Fortunately, he could change the existing talents. Now he could finally change the useless talents he got before. Kawasaki clicked on the music master in the talent list, and a bunch of talent options that could be changed popped up. But most of them were gray, only his lightning attribute affinity and illusion master were lit. Some like archery master were also lit. As for super fast reaction, natural affinity, etc., they were gray and could not be selected. Oh, these talents are divided into different levels, who can figure it out? Advertisement. I guess these two items are lit because he has some foundation. Otherwise, he can only change to a crappy talent. Kawasaki has no plan to add illusion to the combat system for the time being, and directly changed to lightning attribute affinity. Whether to learn lightning style ninjutsu or not, we will talk about it later. However, the complete attribute road is another step forward. Kawasaki is looking at the rewards given by the system. Konoha is almost here, to be precise, the outskirts of the Uchiha clan are almost here. After knowing that the enemy is strong, Yahiko is thinking in his heart. How can I make my strength soar? He really doesn't want to experience the tragedy he encountered because of his weak strength and poor brain. After talking with Kawasaki, Yahiko found that his dream was too naive. Compared with Kawasaki, who is down to earth, his dream is like a castle in the sky. It is very easy to collapse, and the reason why they could persist for so long was mainly because they had strong hard power. If Nagato didn't have Rinnegan, he would have died several times. Although he still couldn't fight against the conspiracy in the end. In this life, Yahiko surrendered to Kawasaki. In addition to understanding the kindness, he also agreed with Kawasaki's plan. He was quite optimistic about Kawasaki's brain. After all, it was definitely better than his own. When they were almost at the tribe's territory, Kawasaki raised his hand. Stay still here and wait for me to come back. Although Yahiko was puzzled, he still stopped. Kawasaki rushed into the woods and immediately lifted the shadow clone spell. In an instant, all memories flowed back to the main body of the clan. Kawasaki rubbed his forehead and sent shadow clone over. He wanted Nagato to revive Yahiko and then give life force to Nagato. As a result, the life force of the Kisei Tensaiden was too strong, and shadow clone reversed the program. Now Nagato is in great shape, the black stick was pulled out, and his legs are no longer lame. Unexpectedly, when the black stick was pulled out, it resonated with the Gedo statue. Nagato decided to fuse Hashirama cells in advance. If Nagato can really fuse Hashirama cells, it should be no problem to save his life from Obito. Kawasaki took a knife from the wall while thinking and hung it on himself. The figure flashed and went out to pick up Yahiko. After a while, Kawasaki arrived at the place where he parted with Yahiko. Yahiko saw Kawasaki and said in surprise, "You didn't go back to change clothes?" "Duh." Kawasaki couldn't say that Shadow Clone was always by your side. "I'll go back to get my weapon and give you a haircut." Kawasaki patted the weapon on his waist. Yahiko looked at the extra long knife and her face turned pale. "Can't we use normal haircut tools? No one recognized us when you cut my hair last time." Kawasaki drew out his weapon and performed a trick. "Don't be afraid of 10,000, just be prepared for the unexpected." Advertisement, "Don't worry, it will be quick." Kawasaki suddenly stopped and said, "Nagato, why are you here?" Yahiko turned her head involuntarily and said, "Nagato, where are you?" Looking back, there was nothing. The knife in Kawasaki's hand flashed and whizzed past Yahiko's head. Yahiko felt her scalp getting colder, and the corner of her hair was shaved clean. Yahiko was so angry that she shouted, "Kawasaki, you scared me to death." "Don't shave." Kawasaki smiled and put away the knife and said, "Don't worry, it's done." Yahiko touched his head, which had been shaved into a buzz cut. Yahiko said with a bitter face, "It's ugly." Kawasaki admired Yahiko's rich expression changes. Yes, that's the effect. He is completely different from the cold Tiandao. "Okay, let's go. You have to live here for a while. First pick a room, then go to Uchiha Snack Street to eat something." Outer circle of the fire temple. An Uzumaki spun out of the air and Obito appeared. Obito looked at the temple in front of him coldly. Although this temple is famous in the fire country, it is still a very unfamiliar place for Obito. The reason why Obito looked at the temple more was because the barrier ninjutsu and sealing technique used by the fire temple were particularly unusual. The big iron gate guarded by the two stone statues together formed a powerful barrier. To enter this barrier, you have to rely on special chakra, otherwise you have to kill the stone statues. There's a way to go. However, Obito didn't have to go through the main gate. He was too lazy to wait for Black Zetsu, so he turned a corner and went directly through the wall into the temple. Once he entered, Obito became invisible and began to look around. In front of him was a spacious square, with potholes and traces of damage everywhere. The ground was sunken in many places, which looked like something had just happened. From the outside, the gate was fine, but when he came in, he saw that the door was sunken inward. He could faintly smell blood in the wind, but what made Obito more concerned was the chakra of 9 tails. As someone who had summoned 9 tails, Obito knew clearly that it was the power zone of 9 tails. There were many monks repairing houses in the square, and most of them were injured. On the steps not far away, there was a child about 10 years old. He was wearing a small monk's robe, sitting there alone, watching other monks busying themselves. Occasionally, a monk would glance at him, and his eyes could not hide his disgust. The child looked particularly depressed. He didn't understand why he fainted and woke up to a completely different world. Chapter 204 Sealing Technique, Nine Tails Chakra Runaway. The fire temple seemed to have been attacked by someone. All the monks were injured, some were seriously injured. The fire temple gate, which had always boasted of being unbreakable, the iron wall of the seal, was broken. Most of the houses collapsed, and many monks were trapped underneath. Moreover, why did everyone look at him like this? Why do everyone hate me? Obito looked at the child carefully. Finally confirmed that this was the person he was looking for. The fire temple of the land of fire. Obito observed and found out that the child was called Kong. His father was once one of the 12 guardian ninjas, Ji Lu. Now he is the head of the fire temple. In the fire temple, except Ji Lu, no one else likes Kong. Cold eyes, fear, disgust, all kinds of expressions are there. The nine tails chakra overflowing from Kong, Obito vaguely guessed the reason behind it. The tragic state of the fire temple was obviously the result of Nine Tails' out-of-control experience. However, Obito still had no idea how the power of Nine Tails could be in Sora's body. Obito silently passed through the wall and came outside. Black Zetsu should be here. Obito searched everywhere, but did not see the shadow of Black Zetsu. While searching, he found that someone was also secretly observing the work of destruction. This was a strong man with white hair that fell to his shoulders, and a scar split his face in half. He held a Japanese-style tin staff and wore a monk's robe. At this moment, he was chewing a roasted sweet potato. After a while, he finished eating the roasted sweet potato. Slowly standing up, Brother Guangming walked to the door and knocked. Soon, a monk opened the door, and after a brief exchange between the two, the man was let in. Obito, curious, also sneaked back. The man greeted the monk with ease and went to the backyard to rest. Obito watched from the side and found it quite interesting. Because the man came to the temple to stay temporarily as a wandering monk. Judging from his familiarity with other monks, he is obviously a frequent visitor here. But Obito doesn't believe that he is just staying here temporarily. Obito discovered early that this guy's target is obviously Kong. It is still broad daylight now, and it is estimated that this guy can't do anything. Obito simply waited outside the temple and planned to come back to see the situation at night. When Obito appeared again, he sensed the breath of Black Zetsu. Obito's face was not very good and he said, "Why are you here now?" Black Zetsu's mouth moved slightly and said, "I can't run as fast as you." Advertisement Obito didn't use Kamui to bring Black Zetsu, which itself showed his distrust. Obito snorted and didn't care too much. In addition to instructing White Zetsu to find Nagato in front of Obito, Black Zetsu also gave White Zetsu other instructions in private. Let White Zetsu help him find the person he needs. This time he went somewhere else to see if the person he found was what he wanted. He took a look and felt good, and planned to contact him in the future. Obito thought about it, and in the matter of collecting 9 tails, he and Black Zetsu had the same goal. So he told Black Zetsu directly, "I found the person with 9 tails chakra. But it seems that there are other people watching him. I want to find out how this 9 tails chakra came from. I have a hunch that this matter is related to him." Black naturally understood the importance of 9 tails. "It would be best if you can find a way to make it. Then I'll go with you to see the situation." Black Zetsu thought, "At least there is one more alternative plan." After saying that, Black Zetsu slowly sank into the soil. Obito passed through the wall and returned to Joyin. At this time, the traveling monk stayed in the room and did not come out. Obito and Black Zetsu waited patiently. A child with 9 tails chakra. For the two of them, it was a blessing from heaven. It can greatly increase the insurance factor of their future plans. Besides, Obito also began to try to find allies who can help him. Since Kawasaki revealed his identity, he has not found anyone who is truly loyal to him. For so long, he has spent too much energy to deal with the Uchiha clan. It turns out that he is not the opponent of Uchiha Kawasaki at all. In the land of water, due to his momentary negligence, Nagato disappeared completely. The key prop of the plan, Rinnegan, lost control. Fortunately, Nagato has a backup plan, and Obito can always take back Rinnegan. He needs to find some helpers. After Rinnegan is recovered, the work of capturing the tailed beast will be smoother. He can't do it alone. Kakuzu is just the beginning. Let's see if this traveling monk can become the second helper. As for Konoha and Uchiha, we can find other ways to weaken them. The sky gradually darkened. The traveling monk who came in during the day really went out quietly in the middle of the night to find Kong. Kong lived alone in a room. It was late at night, but he still couldn't fall asleep. Although Lord Delu comforted him, he still felt that others didn't like him. This made him very sad. He didn't understand why this happened. Gradually, a cloud of smoke filled the air. Kong felt his eyelids getting heavier and heavier, and then he fell asleep in a daze. Advertisement: a monk with long white hair climbed over the wall and entered. He skillfully fiddled with Kong, and then a little light of the sealing technique appeared in his hand. He slapped Kong's abdomen with one palm. A stream of red chakra suddenly gushed out. Then, the sealing technique in Kong's abdomen glowed, and those chakras shrank back again. What are you doing? This peaceful voice sounded like thunder in the ears of the white-haired monk. The white-haired monk waved the staff in his hand and turned it into a chain whip. It was thrown behind him, but there was no sound or touch of hitting anything. The white-haired monk turned around, but he saw a man with bloodshot eyes standing behind him, and a yin-yang face was hidden in the soil next to him. Are you Obito? There was a hint of surprise in the voice. Obito frowned slightly, the man's voice just now was a little bit loud. I don't know if anyone heard it. Obito put a palm on him. The man did not resist at all, but was surprised when Uzumaki rose. Of course, he had fainted when he was dragged into Kamui space. Obito also went into Kamui space. Black Zetsu sank back into the ground. After they left, two monks passed by the door. Glancing at the sleeping Sora, the blanket kicked aside, exposing his belly, sleeping soundly. Maybe Sora is talking in his sleep, it's okay, let's go. I really don't understand why the abbot wants to adopt him. This time it almost. Damn, shut up, this time it was just an accident, Sora is just a child. Outside the fire temple, Obito emerged from the space. He held the white-haired monk in his hand. Black Zetsu followed and emerged from the soil. Interesting, that child has a lot of Nine Tails chakra in his body. The sealing technique used by this person is probably to suppress Nine Tails regularly. In the fire temple, the last time Nine Tails chakra went out of control, it might be because this guy didn't come back in time to seal it. Obito became interested and flipped open the white-haired monk's eyelids. Obito's Sharingan turned, and an illusion was cast. The man lowered his head and stood up blankly. Obito nodded with satisfaction and said, Introduce yourself, what were you doing just now, do you recognize me? I am Kazuma, a former member of the 12 Guardian Ninjas of the Land of Fire, and I was just sealing Sora. That's right, I'm talking about you. Obito pondered and said, Why does Sora have the Nine Tails chakra in his body? Why did you seal him, and what is your purpose in looking for me? Chapter 205 Kakuzu. Obito. Under the control of the illusion, Kazuma stood like a puppet and said, During the Nine Tails rebellion in Konoha, we took the opportunity to obtain the chakra that Nine Tails released when they were rampaging. It took 5 years to cultivate and implant it into Sora's body. Today's Sora is a replica of Nine Tails Jinchuriki. The Nine Tails chakra in Sora's body is too large, and the sealing technique must be used to suppress the Nine Tails chakra. When it is released, it will break the balance, and Sora's body will soon be occupied by Nine Tails chakra. Sora will gradually become a tailed beast and eventually become a real Nine Tails. Obito was shocked. He didn't expect that someone would take advantage of the Nine Tails rebellion. It seems that Kazuma is also a man of means. He can do such a thing. In this case, Sora can no longer stay in the fire temple. Kazuma continued to speak. I'm looking for you to cooperate and destroy Konoha together. Obito became interested and asked, How do you want to cooperate with me? Kazuma said dully, Use your space-time ninjutsu to send us into the core area of Konoha. Use Earth-style ninja art, meiotic regeneration technique, the art of resurrecting the dead. After Obito carefully inquired, What exactly is this Bao? I never expected that you were really capable. Obito calmly calculated that Konoha and Uchiha are now extremely powerful, 310. Weakening Konoha and Uchiha is exactly what Obito has long wished for. After a little thought, Obito cast an illusion on Kazuma, making him fall asleep. Then Kazuma was locked into Kamui space. What are you going to do with this man? Black Zetsu asked. Obito replied expressionlessly. He is plotting to destroy Konoha, maybe we can help him. After Obito made up his mind to use this person, Black Zetsu suddenly said, There is a piece of news that may interest you. What is it? Obito asked doubtfully. Black Zetsu said in a low voice. Konoha is about to elect the 5th Hokage. The current candidates are Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Uchiha Kawasaki. Due to the spore technique, the news reached Black Zetsu's ears as soon as it was exposed in Konoha. Uchiha Kawasaki. Obito frowned and said, How could Uchiha become Hokage? In his words, besides disdain, there seemed to be other meanings. Black Zetsu shook his head and said, Advertisement. Information shows that Uchiha Kawasaki nominated himself and has been voted through. Obito sneered and said meaningfully, That would be even better. When the 5th Hokage takes office, it will be a good time for us to present Konoha. Weakening Konoha is also Black Zetsu's intention, so he echoed. Sisi. The seeds I planted in Konoha many years ago have now taken root and sprouted, and the fruits are ripe, just waiting to be picked. Obito looked into the distance, which was the direction leading to Konoha. Next, take this imitation Nine Tails Jinchuriki away. In the Uchiha tribe, Kawasaki has settled Yahello properly and told him not to move around casually in the near future. He will arrange a meeting with Konan and Nagato soon. Everyone in the tribe knows that Kawasaki brought back a person, but no one talks too much. Yahello knows that her strength is still shallow, so she tries her best to avoid causing trouble for Kawasaki. Every day, she either practices in the house or exercises in the training ground. Few people in the tribe have hair of such color. Tsunade could occasionally see this figure on the roof of the clinic, but he obviously didn't remember who he was. After all, time has passed too long. In recent days, Kawasaki has not been idle. After placing Yahiko in the clan, he travels around Konoha every day. He can open the way to deal with small families. As for the big families, Kawasaki not only distributed money, but also personally canvassed for votes. He showed what kind of policy benefits he would bring if he could become Hokage. Hokage is like flowing water, and the family is like a rock. Over the years, Kawasaki's impact on the third Hokage. It really made some branch house families disappointed in the third Hokage. Kawasaki's personal canvassing was obviously more sincere than Sarutobi Hiruzen's support for Orochimaru. However, except for a few families who clearly expressed their support for Kawasaki, most of them were reserved. Kawasaki didn't mind this, he just needed to show his attitude. Because he knew that in the matter of selecting the fifth Hokage, the third Hokage had more cards in his hand than him. Recently, Tsunade was quite troubled because many medical ninjas came to Uchiha specifically to request an interview. Asked if she was interested in running for the fifth Hokage. After all, the nomination came from Midokado Homura, and Tsunade had never publicly expressed her intention to run for the fifth Hokage before. The sudden nomination was undoubtedly the best news for medical ninjas. Tsunade's prestige among medical ninjas is beyond doubt. If Tsunade becomes Hokage, the status of medical ninjas will also be improved. In addition, Tsunade's conditions met the expectations of all parties, so they came to ask for help. Tsunade wanted to reject everyone immediately. Advertisement. DJ. Why not? I have no intention of becoming Hokage. Tsunade asked Kawasaki with a confused look on her face. With your participation, at least we can attract votes from all the medical ninjas. In this way, fewer people will support Orochimaru. Kawasaki said this seriously, with a sincere tone, as if everything is possible. Tsunade looked at Kawasaki with suspicion. Judging from his recent actions, does he really intend to compete for the position of fifth Hokage? Tsunade has heard that Kawasaki works from dawn to dusk, and visits various families to canvass for votes. Do you really want to be the fifth Hokage? Tsunade looked at Kawasaki seriously. Kawasaki looked solemn, which was very different from his usual playful attitude. He said, at first, I just wanted the third Hokage to abdicate. Unexpectedly, the prejudice of many big families against Uchiha has gradually disappeared. Since there is a hope to become Hokage, why not give it a try? Kawasaki imagined what it would be like to become Hokage in his mind. His eyes were burning, and his desire for power was flashing in his eyes. Tsunade could see it all. For Tsunade, it would be better to let Kawasaki take on this important task instead of letting Orochimaru become Hokage. At least he would not have to make a dilemma in the future. In that case, I will help you. Hearing Tsunade's promise, Kawasaki smiled happily. He felt relieved. As expected, if you want to deceive others, you must deceive yourself first. Without imagining the power and glory after becoming Hokage, how can you easily convince Tsunade? The foreigners will return soon, and the matter of practical teaching can be put on the agenda. At that time, you had plenty of opportunities to practice your medical teaching. Inside the fire temple, Obito sneaked in alone. In an empty corner, he opened the Kamui space. Release the unconscious Kakuzu. From now on, Obito will not let anyone awake enter the Kamui space except him. Kakuzu performed well in the water country battlefield. Obito knows that long-term high pressure is difficult to control people's hearts. Kakuzu was released tonight because there is something he likes here. Obito cast an illusion again to wake Kakuzu. Kakuzu held his forehead and stood up, his tone full of displeasure. Where is this? Obito whispered. Fire temple. Huh? Kakuzu asked in confusion. Why did you bring me here? Obito patted Kakuzu's shoulder and said, you used to be in charge of finances in the Akatsuki organization. Now you come to my place, I will arrange the same position. The abbot here is Delu, you should be familiar with him, right? Delu. Sure enough, Kakuzu was excited when he heard this. Although the account book was lost, those valuable bounty targets were already engraved in his mind. 3 million taels, Obito was satisfied with Kakuzu's reaction. Yes, I can find such high-priced bounties for you quickly. How about it, do you want to help me? Kakuzu's eyes flickered and said, let's not talk about this for now, let's turn Delu into cash first. Advertisement Chapter 206 Senju Sealing Ceremony, Composite Spell. Obito nodded and said, I brought you in, we'll split up later. Don't forget to deal with the other monks. Okay, leave it to me. Obito listened to Kakuzu's promise, then opened the Kamui space and escaped by himself. Kakuzu witnessed the way Obito left, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. Then, he looked at the buildings of the fire temple. There was a strange bulge behind him, and the power of water and electricity turned into earth wrath, which suddenly rushed out of Kakuzu's body. 2 earth wraths approached quietly from underground and reached the edge of the gate. The masks of the wind and fire earth wrath appeared on both sides of Kakuzu's shoulders. The 2 masks opened their mouths, and the energy quickly gathered. Kakuzu locked his target on the main hall in the center of the fire temple. Composite spell. European wind danced wildly. Boom. The blazing flames came from fire temple. Style earthly blasting Yu's mouth, accompanied by a whistling wind, swept in. Instantly, a huge wave of flames fell to the ground like a fire cloud. Right in the middle of the central hall of the fire temple. The fire temple was in an uproar, and the monks shouted in confusion. What happened? It's on fire, there's an enemy attack. Go and ask Lord Earthly Blasting Lu, inside the fire temple. The raging fire and the raging wind intertwined, making the fire temple truly on fire in an instant. Although the monks of the fire temple all practiced ninjutsu, most of them were mediocre. Faced with such a raging fire, many monks were helpless. Everyone rushed to the gate, but unexpectedly, the thunder attributed Earthly Blasting Lu suddenly appeared in front of the gate. Earthly Blasting Yu opened his huge mouth, and blue lightning shot out. A group of monks were electrocuted and fell to the ground. What the hell? In the chaos, Earthly Blasting Lu finally arrived. Don't panic, don't think about putting out the fire, the enemy is the righteous. Watch out for the smoke, gather around me. According to Delu's order, the monks seemed to have found their backbone and slowly gathered behind him. However, Delu's face was solemn. He was late just to find Kong, but he found the room empty. Delu was confused by Kong's disappearance, and the person in front of him was Tien. Who are you? As soon as Kakuzu saw Delu, he overlapped him with the image on the bounty order. Information about Delu also came to mind. Delu possessed a special power, the talent of the immortals, and was once selected as the shield of the daimyo of the fire country. An elite ninja among the 12 warriors. The symbol is a loincloth with the emblem of the fire country embroidered on his waist. A bounty of 30 million. Kakuzu was delighted and said, the one who took your life. Before he finished speaking, Dunu, who was a thunder attribute, opened his mouth. A bolt of lightning struck Delu. The space around him seemed to be slowed down. The right hand was clenched into a fist and placed on the waist, and the left hand was in front of him. The sound of fire around stopped abruptly. A low hum was heard in the wind, and the shadow of Guanyin appeared in the air, with Senju on her back and her hands in 1,000 seals. Guanyin's eyes were slightly closed, and compassion was hidden in her eyes. The moment the lightning struck, Guanyin turned into the red-horned king, shrouded in red light. Chakra's fist, red as the sun, directly hit the lightning-style pseudo-darkness. Snap, the lightning was extinguished in an instant. Then, countless red fists flew out. Thunder attribute Earth Resentment U fell to the ground in response. Earth Resentment U dodged left and right, but still couldn't avoid the red fist emerging from the void. Who is this? Kakuzu also encountered such a strange technique for the first time. Is this the talent of the immortals? Advertisement? Thunder attribute Earth Resentment U can only escape. Kakuzu's body surface hardened, and he wanted to fight Earth-Land in close combat. Delu's eyes widened as he said, Delu of the Fire Temple is no match for you evil heretics. Fight back. Senju kill. Delu shouted, and the hand of Guanyin behind him extended and multiplied. The golden chakra fists rained down like raindrops, attacking at super high speed. Kakuzu used hardening to resist and shorten the distance. Unexpectedly, as he got closer to Delu, the golden fists became even stronger. Kakuzu finally ran out of strength and was knocked away. He hit the wall and it cracked. The monks behind Delu cheered loudly. DS. Lord Delu is awesome. Kakuzu stood up, at a loss. In a moment, he had been hit by hundreds of punches. Awesome technique. Kakuzu shook his head, fortunately he had hardening. Delu stood still, forming a seal with his hands, and did not pursue. Kakuzu sneered, so that's it. The wind attributed Du on his body escaped, and turned into a two-headed Du with the water attributed Du. Both heads opened their mouths wide. Ninjutsu was being nurtured. Delu's heart sank and he said, everyone, retreat behind me. The monks hurriedly hid behind Delu. Delu shouted. His hands changed, and the seal followed. His hands extended outward, forming a treasure bottle seal. Senju sealing ceremony. The light behind Delu became brighter, and he turned into a huge Guanyin. Guanyin gradually grew bigger, and the hands behind him increased. Kakuzu's 2 Du gathered enough chakra. Compound spell, feng shui bomb. The water mask sprayed water, and the wind mask increased pressure. The wind assisted the water cannon, pouring down like a rain of bullets. The hands of the Delu Guanyin statue frequently appeared in front of the water bubble and then disappeared. Puff puff puff. The water bubble was blocked, turned into a clear stream, and sprinkled. Finally, Kakuzu's feng shui bomb came to an end. The opposite Delu was also panting. This technique consumed a lot of his chakra. But it was all worth it. At this time, there was a sharp pain in his chest. When using the talent of the immortal clan, he could not move. Instantly, a big hole suddenly appeared in Delu's chest. The monk behind him was horrified, and saw the blood-red Sharingan on the other side through the hole. Cough. Advertisement. Delu's eyes widened. The Guanyin statue behind him shattered and disappeared. Plop, fell to the ground. Blood gushed out, dyeing the ground red. Kakuzu was frightened and complained. Such a big hole in the chest, what if the black market doesn't admit it? Obito said in a cold voice. Who told you to be slow? The fire is so big that it attracts attention. Many people have come to investigate. Obito has already subdued the 9 tails. The battle here is not over yet, so just use Kamui, and Dilu's chest is open. It was also a warning to Kakuzu. Kakuzu snorted coldly, and his eyes swept over the monks with ashes on their faces. The earth resentment broke away and began to kill wantonly. After the fire in the fire temple, the surrounding villages noticed it. The villagers came upon hearing the news, only to see that the gate of the fire temple was closed. The newly built iron wall of the seal could not be entered unless it was opened from the inside. 0. Then, the sound of fighting and screams came from inside. The villagers wisely avoided it. Even the fire temple ninja monk was defeated, so they would only die if they went there. Everyone could only watch from afar, watching the fire temple building being gradually engulfed by the flames. At dawn, the monks who went out rushed back. There were still embers in the fire temple, and the air was filled with the smell of burning. The monk untied the band and walked in. The moment he stepped in, his face was as white as paper. The bodies of the monks were piled together, and they had been burned beyond recognition. It was difficult to tell who was who, and it was unknown how many people had died. The unpleasant smell of burning came from here. The monk looked around in despair, but found that there was not even a living person. What happened? Who did it? His thoughts were in a mess, and he didn't notice that the door was quietly closed. A branch suddenly pierced his chest. He fell down with an unbelievable look on his face. Black Zetsu picked up the monk's body and threw it into the flames that had not yet been extinguished. Then it slowly sank into the ground. Fire country. After the fire temple was destroyed, Obito asked Kakuzu and the others to meet and told them to cooperate with each other in the future. But he didn't say how to cooperate specifically. In order to win over Kakuzu, Obito threw Dilu's body to him and asked him to go to the exchange to exchange money. Kakuzu looked like a lone ranger, but in fact he had white Zetsu in the form of spores attached to his body for surveillance. There was a big hole in Dilu's chest, so Kakuzu had to put it in a bag and carry it on his back. The blood stains on the bag, madara, and a faint smell emanated. But Kakuzu had no time to care about the stench. He was now thinking about how to get rid of Obito's control. Kakuzu seemed free, but he knew whether he was being monitored or not. He didn't recognize the absolute in the organization. Chapter 207 Kakuzu. Surprise, Nagato. Only now did he realize that Zetsu was actually Obito's man. Although Dilu's bounty was as high as 30 million, he didn't want to work hard for Obito, since the leader could not be contacted at present. Then there was only one way. Finally, a toilet appeared in front. Kakuzu had been to this place many times and was familiar with the people. Kakuzu walked in with the bag containing the body on his back. He pressed the urinal and the wall panel next to it opened, revealing a person Kakuzu was familiar with, the bald man with a scar on his brow. Kakuzu was secretly happy. Fortunately it was still the same person. When the bald man saw that it was Kakuzu, he greeted him enthusiastically. "Brother Kakuzu, long time no see, please come in." Kakuzu walked in slowly and took out the body. The bald man looked at the manual and said in surprise, "Isn't this the Dilu of the fire temple? It's worth 30 million? We caught a big fish this time, brother Kakuzu." Hee. 007. Kakuzu laughed with satisfaction. "Check it out, the old rules." The bald man was stunned for a moment, then bowed and replied, "Brother Kakuzu, rest assured, I will do it for you clearly." The bald man checked it briefly and said to the other side, "Brother Kakuzu, can you keep the body intact next time? Such a big hole is not easy to store." Kakuzu walked forward with some dissatisfaction, and put his finger into the hole in Dilu's chest to measure it. "Okay, I will pay attention next time." Kakuzu pulled out his hand and shook it. The bald man nodded and said, "Then I'll have to trouble brother Kakuzu. This is 30 million. As he said that, the bald man walked to the next room and brought out a huge cash box. Kakuzu opened the cash box, took a look, and closed it again. He made a satisfied, sound. "I'll come to you next time I have business." After saying that, he picked up the money and left. The bald man saw that Kakuzu didn't even count the money, and he understood in his heart. After Kakuzu walked away, the bald man hurriedly dragged Dilu's body into the inner room and reached into the body to search. Soon, he found a hidden secret letter. The bald man unfolded it and saw that it was covered with tiny fonts woven by Kakuzu's earth resentment thread. After reading the content, the bald man's expression changed from surprise to seriousness. "So that's why, no wonder brother Kakuzu didn't even count the money. It seems that I have to go there in person. Among the 5 major countries, the most powerful one is Tianguo. Especially in terms of economy, it fully suppresses the surrounding small countries. Advertisement: the completion of the ninja village tasks has also become the best among the small countries. Although Orochimaru and Kawasaki set up factories in the Land of Fire, this caused the revenue of the Land of Field to decline. But under the preconceived notion, many people still think that the food of the Land of Field is more delicious. Although the restaurants in the Land of Field have been closed, they specialize in high-end dishes. Those are things that the central factory does not have. Therefore, the income of the Land of Field is still good. The Yinyan village has developed for many years. The scale has become very large. The Sage Mode information revealed when Yakushi Kabuto returned. It was also sold to the exchange by Kakuzu, at the time when the Yin village was developing in full swing. Many forces spared no expense to purchase the information of Yakushi Kabuto. It is no secret that Yakushi Kabuto has mastered Sage Mode. Sage Mode is a rare ability in the world. The owner is the top master of the ninja world. The reputation of the Yin village has also risen accordingly. More and more ninjas come to seek refuge, and it has developed healthily. However, there has always been a huge hidden danger in the Yin village. There is a lack of masters who can stand alone. Yakushi Kabuto is indeed powerful, but we can't always let the cage take action when encountering difficulties, which is too embarrassing. The Odobikure village relied on the Uchiha clan, but now the Uchiha clan does not live in Odobikure village. Moreover, Lord Orochimaru said that the Zhaochia clan may gradually withdraw from Odobikure village in the future. He asked Kabuto to make preparations early, because before Orochimaru left, he gave all the laboratories here to Yakushi Kabuto. Now Orochimaru's development trend is likely to no longer return to Odobikure village. Yakushi Kabuto began independent experiments and had always been Orochimaru's assistant. He is very good at the field of biological sciences. The Odobikure 4 under Yakushi Kabuto are Sakin, Yukon, Tayuya, Kitamaru, and Jirobo. In his experiments, he found that the 4 were excellent natural energy containers. The cell tissues in their bodies were extracted, combined with Yakushi Kabuto's cells for cultivation, and then implanted back into their bodies. After a period of time, the cells proliferated on their own, and all the cells of the Odobikure group were replaced. Yakushi Kabuto stored enough natural energy and injected it into the 4 people's human body. They became Yakushi Kabuto's spare natural energy reserve. Although they can also use this energy, the conversion rate is low, which belongs to the degraded Sage Mode. Degraded Sage Mode is also Sage Mode. For the 4 people, it is a great improvement. Their strength directly jumped to the elite Jonin level. At least they can be sent as representatives of Odobikure village. Under the 5 major countries, no small country or village has such strength and appearance. Advertisement. The biggest difference between degraded Sage Mode and Curse Seal is that the former consumes natural energy, the latter overdraws life. According to the original script, their degree of dependence. At most, all members will be finished in 2 years. Now it is different. After Yakushi Kabuto's cell transformation, they have become good inert natural energy carriers. Although they are currently unable to absorb natural energy on their own. The speed of mobilization is slower than that of Yakushi Kabuto, but it does not hurt the body. Even through repeated use, it gradually strengthened his body. Continue to practice, maybe he can truly master Sage Mode in the future. Whirlpool Country, deep in the cave. DBA. Nagato's screams echoed in this cave again. Every day is almost the same, there is such a difficult time. Although his ears have long been accustomed to it, Nagato's screams still make Conan feel distressed. Conan can only help Nagato very little, nothing more than preparing meals and adding nutrient solution. Outside, she has been busy all the time, using her own abilities and the supplies provided by Kawasaki to set up various things. If Obito attacks, Conan will give him a big surprise. Whenever Hashirama's cells will breaks out, countless fragments flash in Nagato's mind. There are fragments of Hashirama's battle memory, and fragments of the image of the spell. Nagato understands that after these fragments, the will of the past cells will come to an end. But he never expected that after the fragments dissipated today. The scene in his mind slowly turned into his current body. As if seeing through, Nagato vaguely saw the division and proliferation of Hashirama cells in a daze. And their fusion or replacement with his own cells, 5.9. The perspective changed, as if it turned into blood. Drifting with the flow, wandering in the body, this is a strange feeling. Being able to witness your internal organs in the body with your own eyes. This is the stomach, that is the lung, and this is the heart. When the consciousness passed through the heart, Nagato was shocked to find that there was a dark area next to the heart. Curse Seal. Nagato suddenly woke up and realized that he had survived the invasion of Will today. He clenched his chest, so there was a talisman engraved on my heart? No wonder I can't hurt myself or the Rinnegan. Nagato's wailing stopped suddenly, and Conan rushed back from outside nervously, fearing that something unexpected would happen to Nagato. But Conan took a closer look and found that Nagato was fine. He was relieved. Nagato sat on the bed panting, sweating all over, with a book in his hand. The Legend of the Ninja with Tenacity and Perseverance. Chapter 208 Becoming Hokage. Kawasaki smiles. A few years ago, Nagato's mind was completely immersed in a state of self-deification, hypnosis. When all these illusions were shattered and returned to reality, Nagato would occasionally fall into confusion. Although the book given by Kawasaki could not help him when the Hashirama cell will broke out. But every time he opened it, Nagato felt that he was finding his former self bit by bit. Every time the Hashirama cell will broke out, it was accompanied by severe pain. Nagato survived with his increasingly determined heart. The Hashirama cell fluid contains Hashirama's original cells. These cells were activated by Orochimaru and are extremely active. Originally injected into the body, The original cells should divide and multiply rapidly, and eventually replace the original cells. Completed quickly. Nagato suffered every day because he was a member of the Uzumaki clan. The Uzumaki clan is a distant relative of the Senju clan. After the Hashirama cells entered Nagato's body, the cells also divided rapidly. But they did not replace Nagato's cells, instead, it combines with its cells. Hashirama's cells contain Hashirama's cellular will. This will is chaotic and disordered, when combined. 28 Once eroded by this chaotic will, the best result is mental disorder. In most cases, this will destroy personal consciousness. In the end, the body loses conscious control, turned into a tree. It is this chaotic will that Rinnegan wants to suppress. The pain Nagato is suffering every day now comes from this. Now, after each burst of will, Nagato's physical fitness will be significantly improved. When resisting the burst of will, Nagato can also receive the images of Hashirama's past release of the ritual. Nagato is now in pain and happiness, and he will become stronger after each pain. As for why he suddenly saw the situation in his body today, Nagato didn't know. But it's a good thing after all. Seeing that Nagato's emotions had calmed down, Konan handed him a towel and asked him to wipe the sweat off his face. How long will this state last? Nagato wiped his sweat and said with a bit of fatigue. The fusion went more smoothly than expected, there shouldn't be any accidents. It's just that the will of Hashirama cells is too stubborn, it may take some time. Konan said with relief. As long as there are no accidents, it doesn't matter if it's slow. Nagato touched his chest and said, my body seems to have been tampered with. I can feel the talisman here. Konan's heart tightened, Kawasaki's words really came true. Is there a solution? Advertisement: the talisman on the heart is not easy to break. The simplest way to remove it is physical destruction. But the talisman on the heart must be removed without hurting the heart. It's too difficult. At least Nagato and Konan can't do it. Nagato is determined to break this curse. He recalled the images that appeared in his mind recently. He said in a slightly low voice, maybe there is a way, but I'm not sure yet. We have to wait until the Hashirama cell strengthening is finished. Konan was full of worry, that will take a long time. Nagato frowned and said, no way, this is the only way. In Konoha village, Kawasaki has been promoted to elder and has the right to post information on the bulletin board. Half of the Uchiha tribe members who were away were called back by Kawasaki. Led by Yayue, they returned to the tribe not long ago. The other half returned to Otogakure village with the 3 elders. Kawasaki also announced the plan for practical teaching on the bulletin board. This group of Uchiha is brave and good at fighting, performs tasks most diligently, and has rich practical experience. Chief, why do you want to start practical teaching? Yes, I don't want to play with those genin. The Uchiha returned and whispered to each other after hearing the actual combat teaching. Yayue and Gui were more familiar with Kawasaki and raised questions directly. Kawasaki waved his hand and the audience immediately quieted down. Kui, you lost to Naruto and Sasuke last time, and you didn't even know how to play. Kawasaki's words made Gui blush, and this matter could not be exposed. If I had known this, I would have gone to Otogakure with Kazuki. Kawasaki saw Gui's face and smiled in his heart, waiting for Naruto and Sasuke to become stronger. You won't feel ashamed anymore. Just like Kakuzu's loss to Hashirama was a shame, but many years later it became a capital for showing off. Kawasaki turned his eyes to Yayue, who spoke first. Yayue puffed up his chest and said, I won the match against Sasuke Naruto. Come and praise me. Unfortunately, Kawasaki did not respond, which made his expectations go unfulfilled. Instead, he said to everyone, many children in Uchiha are about to reach school age. You all graduated from Konoha Shinobi School. In ninja schools, most of the time is wasted. The most important thing is the Will of Fire course they have to take every day. Do you want your offspring to be brainwashed by the Will of Fire? Most of the Uchiha present were in their prime and married. Most of them had 1 or 2 children in their families, most of whom were born after Kawasaki issued the reward policy. There was only half a year to a year left before school enrollment. Advertisement, not to mention that the relationship between Konoha and Uchiha is no longer close. The Will of Fire, taught in school alone, is brainwashing Uchiha. Let you pay, let you contribute. As a member of this faction, this kind of statement is the most hated. Kawasaki suddenly mentioned this, which made everyone think involuntarily. At this time, Yayue raised his hand and said loudly, Patriarch, if you become Hokage, wouldn't these problems be solved? Kawasaki laughed secretly in his heart, I'm afraid you'll have to wait. But on the surface, he said seriously, do you think the position of Hokage is so easy to fight for? Even if I sit on the position of Hokage, things in the environment can't be changed overnight. The population of our Uchiha clan is increasing, so we need to consider this issue in advance. Kawasaki continued, if we educate the children of the clan ourselves, we can completely avoid these problems. Teach as you want, freely. We Uchiha need our own 783 school. Everyone's eyes lit up. It turns out that the clan leader is already planning for the next generation. All of you who are on missions outside are fine, and it's your responsibility to teach the children in actual combat. So the teaching is open to let everyone get familiar with how to teach. Everyone discussed in a low voice, and they all felt that Kawasaki made sense. Yayue asked, "But we are all very ruthless, and I'm afraid we can't grasp the degree when teaching." The people below also agreed. Kawasaki happened to see Tsunade was standing by the window, looking at them. Kawasaki immediately raised his voice and pointed to the newly built hospital next to him. "Who do you think is the most powerful medical ninja in the entire ninja world?" These Uchiha were not fools, and they shouted in unison, "Master Tsunade." Tsunade leaned against the window with his arms folded across his chest, and smiled softly when he heard the shouts from below. "This guy, yes, that's right, it's Master Tsunade." Kawasaki nodded with satisfaction and said, "With actual combat teaching here, as long as you don't lose consciousness on the spot, you can definitely save him. I'm just afraid that you won't know the severity when teaching the children in the tribe, so I let you practice in advance." And Kawasaki smiled and said, "Those of us who are studying in the Uchiha hospital have also reached the time for internship." The Uchiha below looked at each other. He thought to himself, he is worthy of being the tribe leader, and his mind is really quick. The Uchiha below all understood. Chapter 209 Tenten, Neji. Kawasaki clapped his hands and said, "Any more questions?" The Uchiha below all shook their heads. "Very good, the practical teaching will start tomorrow. You can try it during this period. If you don't like it, you can rotate to the Otogakure village in the future." Okay. Dismissed. When the decision of Uchiha's free practical teaching appeared on the bulletin board, many ninjas couldn't believe it. After all, how could such a good thing as free teaching happen? This is simply charity. But Kawasaki is striving for the position of 5th Hokage, and it is impossible for him to talk nonsense on the bulletin. Some civilians came to the Uchiha's territory with a try-it-out mentality. They found that there were quite a few people who shared the same idea as them. Everyone gathered in 2s and 3s in front of the Uchiha's gate. The door was open, but few people dared to go in. After all, Uchiha is a leading and prestigious family. At first, there were few people, and everyone was a little restrained and timid, but later more and more people came. Most people knew each other, and everyone gathered their courage and walked into the Uchiha territory together. The guards in front of the Uchiha gate did not stop them, but told them the location of the training ground. Signs were hung along the way. Everyone followed the signs and came to the Uchiha training ground. When they arrived, they found that there were already many people there. These people were obviously the people who came in the previous wave. Most of them were genin, and there were also some chunin. The training ground was divided into many areas, and Uchiha people stood in each area. When someone came, they would go directly to the field to practice, without self-introduction or extra words. Next to the training ground, there was also a group of people wearing medical hats waiting, and if someone was injured, they would immediately treat them on the spot. In addition to teaching chakra extraction, the ninja school only teaches basic free body technique, physical skills, and the use of ninja tools. For genin, the means of attack are quite simple. Many newly graduated students don't even know other ninjutsu. Half a year after graduation, they are still doing tasks such as weeding and finding dogs. Therefore, although many people came in, they were quickly beaten down by the Uchiha tribe after they went up. Each Uchiha tribe member would make a few simple comments after defeating the opponent. The accuracy of the shuriken is too poor, and it can't even hit a moving target. It's better not to waste the ninja tool. The foundation of physical skills is too weak, and the feet are weak. You need to strengthen your leg training. The scene on the scene is like this. Genin after genin, they were defeated by Uchiha after a few moves. Then they came down with bruises or limping. Advertisement. But they were all grateful. It is better to get hurt now than to die in the future when performing tasks. Not every teacher assigned by the school will guide you well. Others are also very busy, and it's good to give you a few pointers occasionally. Some even leave it alone. If you are smart, they will give you a few more reminders. If you are not smart, I'm sorry, who are you? I don't know you. There are also cases where you are used as cannon fodder during the mission. As long as you are not discovered, you will die. The world of ninja is so cruel. Even if the teacher assigned to you is a good person, it may not be suitable for you. Might Guy is excellent, and has good character, but what did he teach Tenten? Ninja way, experience, ordinary physical skills. So, a good teacher does not mean that you will definitely learn something. Uchiha is a place where you can learn for free, and some injured people were preparing to go back and apply medicine, and come back after healing their wounds. As a result, they were dragged away by a person wearing a medical hat after taking a few steps. Get out of the way. It's my turn. Several Uchiha tribesmen fought for a while, and finally the genin with a swollen foot was pulled away by a man named Uchiha Rina. Uchiha Rina's theoretical knowledge is already very rich, even Shizune praised her for learning well. But she has always lacked practical opportunities, which made her very troubled. Fortunately, the tribe leader suddenly opened a free practical teaching, which gave her a lot of practical opportunities. What do you want to do? I don't have money to see a doctor. The other party was a little confused, but when he saw Rina's hat, he knew that she was a medical ninja. Rina was already familiar with this and said, "Oh, don't worry, our medical service is free. But I am an intern medical ninja, and the treatment effect may not be so good, I hope you don't mind." The other party was overjoyed and said, "It's free, I don't mind, why would I mind?" In Konoha village, Neji, Tianshin, and Xiao Li walked on the street with their bags on their backs. Originally, Might Guy was going to take the three of them for field training. Unexpectedly, an urgent task came up and Guy's help was needed, so Guy was urgently transferred away. Guy's class of 3 people now have nothing to do. Suddenly, Tianshin saw a lot of people gathered around the bulletin board in front. "I went to see what happened." Advertisement. Tianshin approached curiously, but there were too many people and she couldn't squeeze in. "Xiao Li, you watch Tianshin, don't let her get hurt." Seeing that the crowd was too crowded, Neji ordered Xiao Li. Xiao Li raised his hand and said, "Don't worry, Neji, I will take good care of Tianshin." Neji was also very curious. What happened that made so many people crowd in front of the bulletin board to watch the excitement? He saw a few members of the Hyuga family next to him, who were busy maintaining order there, and they happened to be known by Neji. So he simply walked over to inquire about the situation. "Senior Shibuki, why are there so many people? Is there something important posted on the bulletin board?" Shibuki had noticed Neji's presence a long time ago. Hearing his question, he explained, it was announced by Elder Uchiha Kawasaki that the Uchiha family is now offering free practical training courses. Free practical training? Neji was surprised. Is it for a specific group of people? Shibuki shook his head and said, "No specific person, anyone who wants to come can come. As long as you are willing to improve yourself, the door is open to you." Neji was a little worried. After all, the Hyuga family was busy like a top every day. Neji's Hyuga clan members in the guard team, needless to say, each had their own patrol mission. Other members of the Hyuga family were also busy taking on missions to earn extra money. After all, as long as they were at the level of Chunin or above, plus the unique white eyes of the Hyuga family, it was not difficult for my teammates to perform tasks together. Even if there were really people, willing to teach practical combat, they would only teach their own juniors or close friends. This was the first time Neji had met someone who was willing to teach practical combat without any relatives or friends. However, this was exactly what Neji needed. Neji had graduated from the ninja school for a while, but he only did some small jobs like looking for cats and dogs on weekdays. Even though he was talented and trained hard every day, his lack of practical experience made him progress slowly now. Neji asked Shibuki hesitantly, "Shibuki-senpai, can I go?" Shibuki was stunned for a moment, then laughed and said, "Of course you can go. Our Hyuga family and Uchiha family have a good relationship." Shibuki is a special jonin after all, and knows a little about the affairs of the upper echelons. As soon as these words came out, Neji was relieved. Neji's face lit up, and he saw that Tianshin and Xiao Li had squeezed out of the crowd. He quickly bowed to Shibuki and said, "Thank you, Shibuki-senpai, I'll go then." Chapter 210 Uchiha. "My name is Rock Lee." Shibuki smiled and nodded, "Go ahead." Then he turned around to maintain order. Neji stepped forward and pulled Tianshin and Xiao Li out. Tianshin said impatiently, "Neji, Uchiha is now giving free practical lessons." Then Tianshin talked endlessly and recounted the content of the announcement. Although Neji already knew the content of the announcement, he still smiled and listened to Tianshin finish. "Anyway, I've only been taking simple tasks recently, and I'm tired of doing them. Let's go and join in the fun." Tianshin said happily. Xiao Li also said, "Neji, I also want to try out the effectiveness of recent practice." Neji nodded and said, "I want to go too, then let's go to Uchiha for a practical battle today." "Great." Tenten jumped up excitedly. Several people talked and laughed, and walked towards the Uchiha family land. Uchiha family land. Today is the first day of free practical teaching. Kawasaki stayed to see the situation. There are more people coming than Kawasaki expected. Since a few brave people tried it, the news spread quickly. Really, Uchiha is indeed doing free practical teaching and free treatment for injuries. After that, the scene became grand, and groups of people flocked to the Uchiha family land. Most of these people are civilian genin, or children who have just graduated from ninja school. On weekdays, they can only weed and catch cats and dogs. There is no chance to practice 423. Everyone doesn't know how long Uchiha's practical class will last, so they all hurry to participate. Some people guess that Uchiha did this to give Kawasaki accumulates political achievements. But the genins don't care, as long as they get benefits. Although there are many people coming, Uchiha didn't fight with all his strength, and usually ended the fight with 1 or 2 moves. Some people were beaten black and blue, and some were stabbed by shuriken and bled profusely. But there are always medical ninjas on the sidelines. Even if the Uchiha hits too hard, they can be rescued immediately. Everyone who comes here wants to improve themselves, and even if they are injured, they will turn around and thank Uchiha. Uchiha is really a good person. He not only points out the weaknesses in actual combat, but also prepares medical ninjas. It's free teaching. What else do you want? Be content with what you have. Advertisement so the people who come here not only get beaten, but also let Uchiha's medical ninjas practice their skills, and they have to thank Uchiha in the future. Kawasaki watched from the sidelines for a long time. At first, Uchiha's interns were still fighting for patience. Now most of them are very busy, but the Uchiha tribe members would not go too far, and the people who came were not seriously injured. Free medical ninjutsu treatment is much faster than buying medicines by yourself, and most people are willing to wait. The Uchiha on the field are not too tired, and how powerful can the genin be? Basically, a few punches and kicks can solve the problem, and the opponent is very polite. They said thank you for the guidance and are very grateful. And most of them were sincere. This made the Uchiha tribe members stunned. They had never been treated so politely. They also gave a few more instructions to put themselves in the other person's shoes. The other party was more respectful and thanked them repeatedly. These Uchiha tribe members suddenly felt the joy of teaching others. Some people even thought that since the tribe was rich, they would not lack money. If the school of the tribe was built in the future, should they strive for a teaching position? It is true that Uchiha are naturally aggressive, but not everyone is like Uchiha Madara. It is more of a habit. They are not sure whether they will like another way of life. But at least Kawasaki gave them a chance to try. When Neji and the other two arrived at the Uchiha family land, I found that there were more people than expected. Fortunately, the entrance and exit were fast, and there was no congestion at the entrance of Uchiha. Neji and others followed the crowd in. I found that Uchiha divided the training ground into dozens of small fields. There are not many rules, whoever comes is on. Some Uchiha enjoy teaching others, but some do not. They just simply carry out the duties of the clan leader. Advertisement, for example, Yayue does not like this, for him. Uchiha is the strongest clan, and teaching outsiders is a waste of time. So he tends to hit harder, and naturally fewer people come to him. Seeing that there are fewer people in Yayu's row, Neji and others simply ran over here. Yayue kicked a genin away and said, "Your steps are scattered and your limbs are weak. Go back and practice your basic skills first." The other party thanked him and left. Many genins do not have an accurate concept of their own strength, and it is rare for a master to be willing to compete. Come to Uchiha to get beaten, at least, CIDJ. You can clearly understand your own strength level. Yayue was just feeling bored, but unexpectedly, Xiaoya came up and rolled his eyes. Oh, rare, a youngster from the Hyuga family, just graduated from the ninja school? Yayue became interested. After all, compared to ordinary genins, the descendants of such famous families are often quite capable. So they chatted for a while. Neji bowed respectfully to Yayue and said, "Hello, senior. I am Hyuga Neji, a graduate of the previous ninja school." Kawasaki was patrolling the sidelines and unexpectedly met Neji, Tianshin and Xiao Li. I didn't expect them to join in the fun. When Neji came on the court to talk to Yayue, Kawasaki and Yayue exchanged glances. Kawasaki's eyes slanted, signaling Yayue not to drag his feet. Yayue understood instantly. Then, please teach me more. Neji and Yayue bowed and prepared to start, but just as Neji got into position, Yayue on the opposite side disappeared. The next moment, a knife was placed on Neji's neck. Neji's heart trembled. When did it happen? Yayue said with a puzzled look. Pose like this in actual combat? You've already died once. Neji was a little embarrassed. When he practiced with teacher Guy, it was always in teaching mode. Guy always waited for Neji to get ready and then started to attack. Neji realized his mistake and bowed respectfully. Thank you for your advice, senior. Prepare to leave. Yayue left a message. Wait, try again. Neji was a little surprised and said, Me? Can I? Yayue waved his sword and said, Stop talking nonsense, come quickly, yes. Neji's expression straightened, and he leapt forward suddenly, performing gentle fist. The opponent knocked Neji's arm with the back of the knife, and muttered, Vulnerability, loophole, loophole. Even if it was just the knocking of the back of the knife, it made Neji almost unbearable. In less than half a minute, Yusi's arm could hardly be lifted. Yayue kicked Neji back and said, Let's stop here. Yayue looked Neji up and down and said, You have a solid foundation. The actual combat is too rigid and lacks flexibility. Many actions are redundant. If it is a blade, you have changed 17 swords now. Go back and think about it carefully. Neji was silent for a moment, and then bowed respectfully to Yayue. Thank you for your guidance. When he was learning Gentle Fist, he always followed very strict standards. Every move of Gentle Fist has a standard pattern. It is true that such a standard pattern can allow some Hyuga people with poor talents to quickly reach a certain level. But for a genius like Neji, this pattern has restricted his growth. After Neji came down, Tianshin and Xiao Li immediately surrounded him. Neji, are you okay? Tianshin asked worriedly. Neji's hand was indeed painful, but he felt that he had gained a lot, and shook his head and said, I'm fine. You can also go up and try. The Uchiha medical ninja next to him was quite busy, and seeing that Neji was not in an emergency, he did not take him for treatment for the time being. After hearing this, Xiao Li went up with full energy.